into existence.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Holy crap, what a morning it's turning out to be already. I've only been up for like 3 hours and it's already turning into a great weekend. Welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. Happy Saturday, happy weekend. Thank you for everybody that's here today. So this morning I woke up, sit down, get my coffee, make my coffee, took Cash out. He does this cute little thing where like he goes out. He used to all of the dogs used to stay in the room with Christy when I would get up and go to work. And now Cash realized that if he gets up and comes downstairs with me and I let him out, when he gets back in, he'll get some treats. And so he does that now. And so I, go do my thing. I come upstairs, get my coffee, sitting down. And I don't even remember what triggered me to do this, but I was like, oh, Trump's speaking right now. Let me go see what this is all about. So I jump over and I see Joe Rogan behind him. And I'm like, hold on. Trump is in the Oval Office right now with Joe Rogan? We're all told that they hate each other and that Rogan's anti-Trump and Trump's anti-Rogan and, like the kayfabe with Elon Musk, and the kayfabe I think will eventually learn that, between MTG and Thomas Massey, Matt Gaetz, and all the other folks out there, I think that's all we're going to see, that's kabuki theater at some point, but we'll see. Could be wrong about that. We'll see. But so I start watching this and I'm like, okay, well, what is this? You got Joe Rogan up there, Bobby Kennedy, Dr. Oz. You've got Marcus Luttrell up there, Bobby O'Neill. You've got, to Trump's left, if you're looking at him to the right, you've got all these war fighters. And I'm like, all right, what do we got going on here? And so I started listening and they're talking about psychedelics. And I'm like, what? We're talking about some psychedelics? And, it was incredible, man. As CanCon, standing for Cannabis Conservative, I've been a huge proponent of alternative medicines for veterans to treat PTSD and all sorts of things. And President Trump has been the first president that actually gets it. A lot of them talk a great game. We went through Obama, we're going to legalize cannabis. Bill Clinton, I didn't inhale. Like the progressive scale that we've gone on to learning about these alternative medicines has been absolutely fantastic. And so for anybody that's new here, typically this show is a week in review podcast, but I am going to start out with probably a solid 30, 45 minutes on this executive order right here, or this research, I should say, the executive order into research, because I think it is one of the most significant things that President Trump can do. And there's two reasons for this. One, the effects that this will have on the American population will be monumental. Okay. But the other thing that it's going to do is it's going to piss off Big Pharma. So Trump has been kind of low key on a war path against Big Pharma since this second term kicked off. He started out, he left in 2021, he left with the executive order mandating certain pills, like certain medications, like I think it was insulin, right? Limited, capped at $49 or $39, whatever the hell it was. That was monumental. And then what does Joe Biden do? He freezes that executive order and then introduces it himself, 6 months later, whatever the case might be, and takes all the credit for it. Yeah, fuck off, Joe. That was Trump's baby. So then Trump comes out in his second term, and he does this, the most favored nation status, right? If you're going to sell pills and Big Pharma is going to sell medications in the United States, you're going to have to sell them at the same price that you sell them to the lowest first world nation out there, right? I mean, obviously there's some third world nations out there that you got to sell it a little bit cheaper because they have nothing, right? But the most favored nation status was a master in pushing back against Big Pharma and destruction of the pharmaceutical industrial complex. This is another huge step. This might be even more impactful than the most favored nation status. Now, let's go ahead. I want to play this clip here, and I don't even know who this gentleman is, but let's play this clip here because I think as I'm watching, and we'll probably play this to the end because there's a lot of good stuff in here. And I want you to pay close attention when President Trump starts speaking and people are asking him questions. Why didn't you do this sooner, sir? and listen to Trump's response. Okay, so let's go ahead and pick this up here.
There's one thing I'd add. There's nothing more expensive right now than the mental health crisis in America. 21% of Americans have a diagnosable mental health condition. The second leading cause of death for young adults today is suicide. Wow. Mr. President, antidepressants right now are the most prescribed class of medication in the country. Over 20% of women are on an antidepressant.
And is that good in terms of do they work?
There's highly problematic research on the fact that over 20% of U.S. women are on these drugs that are prescribed for life. We have a mental health crisis. And
do they work?
No. They don't. I'm on a couple of them. And
I would not have.
We'll get you down. We'll get you down.
So just listen to that for a second there. President Trump asked this man, do they work? Meaning antidepressants, SSRIs, all the pills that they've been told, the zombie dope is what I call it, right? Zombie dope, the zombie drugs. And he says, do they work? And, you know, when you're in the press, you know that when you're in the Oval Office, you don't speak unless it's your turn to ask questions. And this reporter jumps in. I think it's a reporter. Could be a staffer, which would be even more significant because they're told not to say anything. And he jumps in and says, no, they're not effective. I'm on a couple of them, and they're not. They just numb the problem. They numb the pain. They make you so that you don't feel anything. And if you don't feel anything, you can't feel depressed. You just go through life with a haze, this fog over you. Once they've got you, you're in. You can't come off of them. You try and wean yourself off, and then you're like, oh, wait, I still feel the same. I don't like this. So I thought that was such an impactful moment right there when that woman came out and said that from the back in the peanut gallery, so to speak, unsolicited, and comes out and says that is something that is going to be burned in President Trump's mind, I believe.
I said, okay, can I be next? But no, it is definitely an issue.
But Mr. President, what you and Secretary Kennedy unlocked is for the first time questioning this system.
Yes.
Where we spend 3 times more per capita than any other country in the world, and we are living 6-7 years less. We have the highest rates of suicide and depression in the developed world. The incentives of our system.
And by the way, autism, which we're really working hard on, right, Bob?
We have the highest rates
and
of
we're coming up with some pretty amazing findings.
Pediatric cancer is the highest rates in the world. We are struggling, and we're paying more than any other country. And the power of this executive order is really representative and gives validation to the cries of Maha moms and the votes of Maha moms, because for the first time, it's taking a therapy that's one time. This is a one time, not a lifetime drug that can change someone's life. And that's the power. And I think that's why the system is
So
not
the
working.
antidepressants, all that we read about it and we prescribe to our military, they're not very effective.
It's a lifetime drug. And
Well, even if it's lifetime, but do they?
look at what's happened as we prescribed them and made one of the most prescribed
The
classes.
numbers are not great.
Perhaps I could jump in from the scientific side.
Thank you, Mr. President. What's the timeline
Hold on,
for those?
she just wanted to say something.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I think what's really important about your order is we really want to understand why these rapid-acting treatments work. We need that for every treatment in mental health illnesses. Standard antidepressants in research, they do work for some people, but certainly not everyone. And if we think of cancer, all other conditions, we have a test to know which treatment
That's right.
is needed, and we don't have that for mental illness. It's guesswork.
This is
So
tough. With that, it either works or it doesn't work, and you have the
Right.
result.
And so
With this, you don't
as
know.
part of this order, I think it's really important that we're able to have the investment to understand who does this work for, and the test to accompany that. So thank you for
Do you
making
think
that.
this can be a big step above antidepressants, what we're doing?
I think it can be identifying who doesn't respond to an antidepressant straight away, rather than waiting for years. And
What
being
percentage
able
of
to-
people respond positively to antidepressants? How much?
20 to 30%.
That's not great.
No.
That's not great. Well, thank you very much.
Mr. President, What's the timeline for those with mental health disorders, substance abuse disorders, to readily take advantage of this treatment based upon the executive order that you're signing today?
So I'd like to ask maybe Marty that question.
Sure. So first of all, right now it's available on clinical trials. We have not had applications in-house at the FDA. There was one that came in under the Biden administration. It was kicked out and not accepted. We now have 3 applications that are imminent, and we'll be issuing vouchers next week. The fastest FDA approval was 42 days during the HIV epidemic. On our national priority voucher program under President Trump, we are now down to that time frame on a routine basis instead of a year. In my opinion, we need the same level of urgency we had with HIV for PTSD and depression and anxiety and our mental health disorder and cancer and heart disease and so many other conditions. So you're going to see decisions out from the FDA later this summer, as soon as we get the applications.
That's great. That's great.
And Mr. President,
I like that. I really like that answer.
thank you, Mr. President. And then in regards to the timing of the executive order, was there not enough known about this treatment a year ago or 5 years ago or 8 years ago to sign the executive order that you signed?
So you want to answer that question? Go ahead.
I'm just that in 2016, the lead professor at Johns Hopkins said this was the most promising therapy that he's seen in his career, and many doctors from leading institutions said that. There's been a hold, there's been incentives against this, and it's the bravery and leadership of President Trump.
So you think artificial barriers?
It started, and this, to be clear, it's starting a fast-track scientific process that's subject to FDA approval. But this has been known among leading institutions for many times as a very promising therapy.
So could it not have been signed in your first term, or there just wasn't enough information known about it?
Nobody told me about it, frankly. I got, all of a sudden, I've been getting a lot of calls. I think in all fairness, I think a lot's been learned over the last few
I
years.
should say that. I mean, a lot has been learned over the past few years. And I think in the first term, if I was standing behind the president, I would be much more comfortable than I am now, thanks to the research that's been done. I mean, still a lot more to do. It's worked for so many people. It's really a great move to do this. But the research is really important because we're going to keep improving, keep learning, and make sure that the people get the treatment they need when they are depressed, when they are addicted, when they have PTSD. If you keep doing the research and also acknowledge the research that's been done, that's when you get good health policy.
And Secretary Kennedy's role, he just doesn't stop. I mean, every day, all day long, until he gets these things done. This is not an easy boulder to push up the hill. And Secretary Kennedy was undaunted, and he'd been talking about it for a while, so he had a passion anyway. But his mentoring has allowed a lot of folks to move this quickly.
And if I can jump in rapidly, because I was one of those doctors that was not supportive of psychedelic therapy because I thought it was magical thinking. But over the past 6 to 10 years, we have seen an emergence of data that we cannot ignore. These drugs have the capacity, as was mentioned before, with one single administration to change the behavior of someone towards a therapeutic effect. In animal models, one single administration recreates pathways that have been eroded because of pathology. So we have a tool that potentially could allow us to basically manipulate the ability of our own bodies to heal itself, if we know how to properly use it. And that's why research, as I mentioned before, is opening up doors to explore what else can we do, how to optimally use it.
That is such a key point right there, guys. I have talked, about on this program before about, other therapeutics, psychedelic therapeutics out there, like ayahuasca, psilocybin, all sorts. I'm not that familiar with ibogaine, but given the work product that's behind President Trump to President Trump's left, our right, and these guys that are, you've got Luttrell, Navy SEAL, Bobby O'Neill, Navy SEAL. They invoke a couple Green Berets. These are war fighters that have seen the worst of the worst. And I've heard Marcus Luttrell's story before, about his life after and his recovery after. And he went into the whole pills and booze and everything else. And what that doctor's saying right there is, I never really knew about this. Why? Because they don't teach you about anything like this in med school, right? Med school is an indoctrination camp into big pharma. It is an like the first thing, DMT, there's another good one, Bromagnon, DMT, absolutely. They teach you in med school. I mean, like before you even learn about, anatomy and everything, they're like, here's how you write a prescription. I'm being, facetious with that, but that's ultimately what they do. It is a farm to grow doctors that are going to prescribe more drugs and never look at anything alternative. They don't deal with nutrition. They don't deal with healthy eating, healthy living. They just tell you, well, if you feel sick, we've got a pill for that. And that doctor, kind of waking up, right? You're watching an awakening happen with that doctor where she's saying, hey, I never knew that this could actually happen, where you have one treatment from a God-given plant that is able to rewire your brain and cancel out these harmful addictions. Psilocybin does, something very similar they found in studies. And again, a lot of this cannot be tested. And so what President Trump is doing right here by enabling this research is giving the pathway for this stuff to be removed from Schedule 1 status, where it has no medical effects whatsoever. Cannabis is up there. Psilocybin is up there. Ibogaine is up there. A lot of these plant-based drugs that are non-toxic, right? You can consume as much cannabis, psilocybin, and ibogaine does have an effect on your cells if you take like massive amounts. But ultimately, these are safe, right? You could sit there and take pound for pound an SSRI versus cannabis or psilocybin, and you might trip balls. You might be tripping all over the place, but you're not going to die. If you take the SSRI or any other pill, essentially, you're going to die. You're going to overdose. Your kidneys are going to shut down. Your liver's going to shut down. Everything's going to shut down. This doesn't happen with ibogaine. Now, imagine the impact of being able to take a one-time treatment and essentially erase your addictions, whether it's alcohol, whether it's heroin, whether it's crack, whether it's, meth, whatever it may be. Do you know what that does to this country overnight? I mean, we're talking like a month. We're talking like a month when you start, instead of going to methadone clinics and everything else, you go to an ibogaine clinic, or you go take a psilocybin therapeutic retreat. It would change our country fundamentally. But we won't even give it a shot. Why? Because we're beholden to big pharma. They make trillions of dollars off of us by pushing these pills and these drugs on us. And again, like we saw earlier, SSRIs, antidepressants, being the biggest one. I mean, Ozempic and all that might be up there now, but I mean, this is so massive, guys. I think this has potential. If they follow through on it and they keep this up, this has potential to be bigger than the most favored nation in terms of our pushback against big pharma. All right, let's keep going. I got one more clip I want to play after we finish this.
You're hearing and seeing automatic research. You're hearing and seeing things now that you wouldn't have really, you wouldn't be able to have done a couple of years ago. I mean, it just seems to me, I've been hearing about it a little bit over the last year. I never heard anything about it in the past. It was almost like taboo. It's not taboo anymore, right?
And there was not enough science neither. And I think that's where the evidence speaks for itself. And ultimately, that's why I say I was one of those doctors that didn't believe in it. So we do data in order to change our perspective and to do things better.
I was surprised to hear about the antidepressants. I assumed they'd be better. That's not very good. So, Bobby, you're going to push it very hard?
Yes.
We'll get it done? Sounds good to me. Well, these two guys and this third with Rob too and with you, I mean, that to me is research, right? Maybe the ultimate research, right? Big fans, all big fans. Well, I want to thank everybody, and it's going to be.
So huge. And see, the last thing he said, I didn't realize they were this big of a problem. No one ever does. I want to play for you guys, and I've played this clip before on my shows. I remember
they don't like the outcomes of.
I remember this clip. This is Laura Delano on Tucker Carlson probably about a year ago. And I was driving home from a Lakeland Badlanders meetup, a Badlanders Florida meetup. And I'll give you the exact date. This was June 6th, 2025. So almost a year ago. And I was driving home, and it's a 3-hour drive for me to get back to my house. And so I'm like, let me see what I can listen to. And somebody had recommended I listen to this because they know my opinion on alternative medicines and all that stuff. And so I said, sure, let's see what she has to say. Listen to this about, big pharma, the SSRIs, the antidepressants, and the processes that they go through.
Guess how long your average psychiatric drug trial lasts to determine safety and efficacy?
I don't know, 10 years?
6 to 8 weeks.
Wow.
Some of them last a week. Some of them last a day. Maybe two studies.
So these are not longitudinal, as we say.
There is zero evidence base for long-term safety and efficacy of these drugs. Zero. And there is also zero evidence base for polypharmacy. These drugs have never been studied in combination with each other, and yet most of us go on to take multiple of them for years.
Nor is the mechanism of their effectiveness understood, right? So you said, for example, mood stabilizers were used on animals in to stop convulsions, and they noticed that the animals became compliant. But that doesn't mean that they know how that drug acts on the brain. Correct?
Yeah, you'll see a line like that in the drug, like the mechanism of action is not yet understood or something. And it is such a.
This is so reckless.
It's 6 to 8 weeks, sometimes a day. This is safety and efficacy, folks. This is not, is it going to kill you? Is it going to shut down your livers? Is it going to lead to suicidal ideology and ideations? Ideations? Is it going to lead you to want to kill yourself? And, I saw in the chat, B-Hop says, I lost 10 friends. So have I. Maybe not 10, but I've lost many Marines and soldiers and guys in the nonprofit that I'm a member of, the Buddy Up program, where we have guys with PTSD and all sorts of things that struggle with this, and most of them are afraid to try the alternative medications, and so they cuck to the VA. They go in, the VA gives them their pills, and they go home and they take their pills, and they never even think about trying cannabis or psilocybin or ibogaine or ayahuasca, or going on a retreat and seeing a shaman and having somebody guide you through this. And the crazy part is so many people now, to be clear, I'm just a cannabis guy. Cannabis is working for me. I'm fine with it. I definitely want to try, psilocybin. I want to try ayahuasca, and I don't know that ibogaine would be a necessity for me because I don't have any addictions. So I don't necessarily think I've tried to keep myself pretty clean in that regard. Never tried any drugs besides cannabis. I hate calling cannabis a drug, but never done a single drug in my life other than cannabis. But it works for other people. And so I want to try this because in addition just to being able to help you with the demons that are inside of you, the addictions and things like that, there's a lot of spirituality that I hear about these things. Aaron Rodgers does and I'm a Packer fan, so I'm very partial to Aaron Rodgers, but he did an interview with Tucker as well around that same time where he's talking about ayahuasca trips and things like that, and he has a Netflix documentary where he talks about in the off season going and doing psilocybin and shrooms, and he says every year that he won the MVP, he went on one of those retreats and did an ayahuasca trip. And you hear a lot of people talking about this and how it opens up your whole universe, right? It's a world that you hadn't seen before. So again, I'm getting a little, this is a week in review and we've done 30 minutes. I did say 30 to 45 minutes, so I might go a little bit longer. I appreciate you guys all being here, by the way. Smash that thumbs up. It helps me out a lot on the platforms, whether you're on YouTube, whether you're on Rumble, Twitter, X, formerly Twitter. Man, I'm so as I was watching this, guys, I had tears in my eyes, man. I really did. Like, this is so impactful to, not just myself, but to all of my brothers in arms, my fellow Marines. I could take this moment real quick. Hold on. I do want to plug my buddy's book here. He just wrote this. It just came out, and I just bought it, and I started reading it. I started reading it yesterday, or Thursday. I started reading it Thursday, and I read 120 pages in the first sitting. And I'm not a guy that can read 120 pages. I'm usually one chapter and a chapter at a time, and I couldn't put it down. Now, granted, I do have, it is as much my story as it is his. I mean, it's his perspective, but it's our story. It's all of our guys. And so he does a phenomenal job at outlining it. So if you guys want to read that, you can maybe get a little bit of perspective of the warfighter and what it is that we go through as a Marine infantryman on a combat deployment. It would be fantastic. So again, The Hills by the Wadi by Danny Murphy, fantastic book, unfiltered, raw, right? You're going to get a raw look at it. So you can get it on Amazon if you just search The Hills by the Wadi, Danny Murphy. And I think it's like $15. And if you can and you read it and you enjoy it, leave him a comment or a review, rather. Helps him out with all that stuff. And love that guy. He was my point man in Afghanistan. So on our first deployment, we were boots together. So our first deployment kind of sucked together. But then on our second deployment, we were the senior Marines, right? I was a corporal. He was a Lance corporal, but he ended up getting busted down to PFC. And I don't want to tell the story because I'm sure it's in the book. So I'm not going to tell the story, but it was pretty courageous. It was a leadership quality that you expect in a guy like that. So it was a fantastic story, and we all had his back, but he ended up getting busted down to private for talking back to a sergeant as a Lance corporal. But when we went on our second deployment, he was my point man again. And this time I was the team leader. So I was the guy walking second behind him. And, I've told him many, many times that there's no other guy that I would want to be walking behind. There's nobody else I'd rather be walking behind than him. And so he's a guy that's very near and dear to my heart. So if you guys want to support him, $15, The Hills by the Wadi on Amazon. Now, I haven't read the whole book, so I'm going to throw this out there. He uses pseudonyms in it, and for all of us. And I don't know if I should tell you guys what my pseudonym is. I think I might have already on SitRep. So I don't know if he's going to talk shit about me because we talk a lot of shit. I don't think he will. He names me Lambo in that book for some reason. I don't know where that came from, but maybe it's because I'm a Packer fan. Lambo, Lupo kind of goes together. I don't know. All right, guys. So, oh man, I'm just on cloud 9 right now, man. Like, I just want to go. God bless President Trump. God bless President Trump. All right. Let's get into this article here from CBS News that kind of outlines this executive order. This was from April 16th, and I don't even know how I missed this. This was 2 days ago, and somehow I missed this. It says exclusive. Trump to sign executive order on psychedelic drug used abroad to treat PTSD. A psychedelic used in some countries to treat post-traumatic stress disorders expected to get a closer examination from the federal government on its safety and effectiveness. Well, according to Laura Delano and the way they treat antidepressants and SRIs, chemical concoctions that have a toxicity within your body, right? Things that are actually toxic to you and can kill you 6 to 8 weeks. Ibogaine, which can't kill you, psilocybin, which can't kill you, cannabis, which can't kill you. Years and years and years. Why? Because one is very profitable. The other you can grow in your backyard. The other one grows out of cow shit in a field. It's crazy. Crazy. Ibogaine, a naturally occurring compound from a shrub native to Africa, is used to treat depression, anxiety, addiction, post-traumatic stress disorder, and brain trauma. What? All of those things. Depression. Leading pharmaceutical pill out there. You heard from the thing. More than 20% of women are on antidepressants. That's 1 in 5. More than 1 in 5. So you put 5 women in a row. I think the number is much higher than that, to be honest with you. I think the number is probably half. And maybe that's because I live in a major metropolitan area. We've got, a lot of people here. There's a lot of, whatever opportunity. You move out into rural country and it's kind of still frowned upon in those particular places, although there's a lot of drug use in those particular places, meth and all that stuff. What's one thing I was shocked by when my mom lived out in Western North Carolina, and I'd go out to the country and I thought, hey, these are the purest of people. Fuck no. There's a lot of drugs going on in those neighborhoods. But I don't know that it's necessarily the big pharma stuff. And, I still believe a lot of this is because of food that we're consuming, chemicals that are in our food that don't nourish our brain the way that they're supposed to, all sorts of things like that. But anyways, going off topic, treat depression, anxiety, addiction, PTSD, and brain trauma. You find a way to fix those 5 things right there, or 5 things right there. You cut out more than half of the pharmaceuticals that are out there. Depression, that's all your SSIs, that's all your antidepressants. Anxiety, that's your Xanax. Addiction, that's all your rehab clinics. They're going to be hurting if ibogaine becomes real. Instead of going to 6 months of rehab with a high recidivism rate, you're more likely than not to come out of there and fall off the wagon. No, just take this one 18 to 36 hour trip. You're going to trip balls, but when you're done, you're going to be fine. Talk about the miracle drug. God gave it to us. God gave it to us. Post-traumatic stress disorder and brain trauma. The last 2 I deal with. Brain trauma, TBI. Because it's illegal in the United States, Americans have been traveling to unregulated clinics, often in Mexico or the Caribbean, to take the drug. Trump doesn't plan to reclassify the drug for medical use at this time. It will remain a Schedule I drug. Texas has made a big push to study ibogaine. Governor Abbott last year signed a bill approving $50 million for research. And then it says Trump officials said the medical research into ibogaine is in an early phase, but the administration wants to help determine whether it's quote unquote snake oil or legitimate treatment, one official said. Now, I think that becoming a legitimate treatment, there's a lot of support for that. If you look at that press conference and President Trump having highly respected veterans, doctors, people like that testifying to the efficacy of ibogaine and other psychedelics is huge. And that's something that is going to be burned into his brain as this moves forward. And hearing Bobby Kennedy and Dr. Oz and all the others, supporting this is really big right there. But here's the thing. Why is it a Schedule I drug in the first place? Again, going back to what I've said many times thus far, it's non-toxic, right? You guys remember Boone Cutler, God rest his soul. Great man. And, him and I, back in, I think, 2016, Boone did a documentary called Unprescribed. And I was in that documentary. Boone was kind of the focal of it. But we went to several film festivals, independent film festivals afterwards. And we were at one in Colorado. And, I remember Boone was doing a panel. I think we were all up on the panel. And, Boone at one point had said, when it comes to the FDA, NIH, and all these other institutions that determine whether something's safe for us to use, there's a scale that they use. And I'll never forget, Boone stands up and says, the way that, and I'm summarizing here, but I've got the gist of it. The way that the FDA does drug approvals is they give you doses and they find out at what point does that dose become toxic to your body. And then when it becomes toxic to your body, you back it down a dose or two and boom, that's where the safety for that, particular dosage is. That's the safe dose for it. With cannabis, and this was specifically about cannabis, but it's applicable to what we're talking about here. With cannabis, Boone says, not toxic, not toxic, not toxic, not toxic, all the way up, never becomes toxic. FDA, get the fuck out. That's a direct quote. FDA, get the fuck out. You have no authority to regulate something that is non-toxic to us. You shouldn't have authority to regulate anything. That's the libertarian in me coming out. I don't think the government should be regulating anything that we can consume. You can warn us, you can tell us, but that's it. That's it. And that's the libertarian. I understand. I can totally understand the other perspective that the government's there to help, right? Because that's the best thing to hear. We're with the government. We're here to help. All right. I think that's all I've got from the CBS article. I did play around with Perplexity AI because I told you I'm not that familiar with ibogaine. So I wanted to see more about it, and I was asking it, have people used ibogaine to fight alcoholism, SSRI addiction, etc.? Yes, people have used ibogaine in attempts to treat alcoholism and to help with discontinuing SSRIs, but the evidence is still limited and the treatment is controversial. Available reports, and I'm going to go more with analogies and personal testimonies and attestation to the legitimacy of these drugs. I'm going to go with that, and so I'm going to trust when Marcus Luttrell stands up there and says, "This helped me. I went to Africa. I did this trip. I went with many other special forces vets, and it worked for us." I'm going to trust that. Available reports and reviews suggest it may reduce cravings and withdrawal symptoms for some substance use disorders, while also carrying meaningful safety risks, including toxicity. Some clinics and reports describe ibogaine as helping reduce alcohol cravings and withdrawal, and a small clinical study in Brazil found alcoholic patients after ibogaine followed alcoholic patients after ibogaine. Older research suggested reduced alcohol-seeking behavior in animal models. There are also retreat-style reports, and that's what I was telling you. Go on with a shaman, go on one of these retreats, and case series claiming ibogaine helped people taper off SSRIs and ease discontinuation symptoms. But these are not the same as large, well-controlled clinical trials. Fuck your clinical trials. Fuck your clinical trials. The second you get somebody that has a vested interest in a determined outcome, the whole thing is shit to me. Right? You remember during the COVID vaccines, the Newsweek article about the Pfizer and their research papers that came out and saying billions of people have taken the jab and there's only X number of cases. And then you go back and actually look at the research paper that was released under FOIA from FDA and NIH, and you see that it wasn't billions, it was redacted. You inserted billions, and it was over 40,000 cases, of adverse effects, side effects. And I think it was like 1,200 deaths from the COVID-19 vaccine trials. And they don't want to cover that. Anytime you have an entity with a vested interest in a predetermined outcome, that control is garbage. I would rather have a ton of people who have documented suffering from whatever particular disorder, addiction, whatever the case might be, coming out and saying, hey guys, I did this and it fucking works. It works. I'm going to trust that person over somebody in a lab coat. Sorry, I lived through the COVID era. I'm not dumb. Safety guidelines around ibogaine specifically warn that antidepressant interactions and cardiovascular risks need careful medical screening. Ibogaine is not an approved mainstream treatment for addiction in the US, and the literature includes toxicity and even deaths in treatment settings. If you want, I can give you a plain English breakdown, blah, blah, blah. And then it cites Medical News Today. Medical News Today. Don't take this ibogaine because then you won't take the SSRIs and all the other shit that we've been prescribing you guys for years. That's what I hear when I read that shit. That's literally what I hear when I read that shit. All right. Trust the science. Where's my bumper sticker? I literally have this on the back of my Jeep. It's trust the science, but it's spelled P-S-Y-E-N-S-E. Trust the science. Here, I'll put it in the chat. Trust the science. There it is. Trust the science. Oh, man. Such a big day. All right, guys. Mag says, I was on antidepressants and I was a literal zombie. It took me a year to wean off of it. Yeah. Yeah. Again, I was so blessed not to go that route. I went to the VA and they tried. And I said, no. I sat in a circle with a bunch of other veterans, and I was the only combat veteran in the whole circle. And, I had somebody talking about PTSD, and they're like, yeah, I have PTSD from a convoy that I was on. And you know, I'm listening. They hit an IED, and I'm listening, and I'm like, holy shit, that's legit right there. Not like good. I mean, it's like a legit story. You have PTSD from being blown up. I can relate to that. And then they tell me they were like 30 vehicles back in a log train, which is a huge convoy that goes out to resupply other bases, and they hit an IED. Like the second or third Vic hit it, and they were like the 30th in the line. And I'm like, okay, that's not PTSD. That is an inconvenience. You didn't even see the explosion. You were so far back, because 30 vehicles, there's usually about 100 to 200 feet between each vehicle. So you're talking about almost a half a mile behind everybody else. You likely didn't see anything. I was in the vehicle. All right. I was in the vehicle. I was in the vehicle behind the vehicle. I was in the vehicle in front of the vehicle. I was walking, in front of the guy. I went out to put tourniquets on the guy's leg. I can't relate to that. And so that was when I left the VA. I was like, I'm not going to do this. I know the drugs that they're going to put inside your body. I know what they're going to try and prescribe you. And I know that all they're going to do is try and fog over my life. They're just going to try and make my eyes turn gray and hazy and just want to lay in bed all day. And that's when I found cannabis, and it saved my life. All right. Let's get into the real news, right? That's what y'all are here for. I mean, that was a very, very warm welcomed surprise to see that pop up this morning. But yeah, before we do that, let's go ahead and hit a sponsor, ladies and gentlemen, and let's talk about MeWe. Have you ever felt like the phone is eavesdropping? Well, that's because big tech treats every user's life like a corporate paycheck. It's time to stop being the product. Millions are making the move to MeWe, the place where private connections and online communities actually thrive. On MeWe, privacy is a human right, not a hidden setting. They don't track users, they don't sell personal data, and they truly believe in free speech, not shadow bans, just real conversations. Join the 21 million people taking their digital lives back. Click the link below to get started. Use promo code WELCOME2026 at checkout to grab a 20% off discount on MeWe Premium. All right. Thank you to MeWe. And yes, you are going to pay for social media if you don't want it censored. Now that's a premium, but it's free otherwise. But if you want the premium experience, you're going to have to pay, right? What's the rule? Nothing is free. If it's free, you're the product. There's more money in data than there is in an $8 subscription fee. So keep that in mind, guys. All right, let's jump into this story. We're going to talk a little bit elections right off the rip, because Asawavana at tip to ash. From Raw Story, swing state officials accused of secretly meeting to help Trump seize election files. This is pure propaganda from an NGO that is an absolute destructive force, an absolute thorn in the side of American sovereignty, and anything that has to do with promoting your rights as an American. I hate that this group calls themselves American Oversight, because they're not. They are a talking head for the establishment. Basically, they give you a little bit here and there. They'll be like, oh yeah, this is good. Look what the government's doing. And you're like, oh shit, they shouldn't be doing that. And then they just go completely unhinged. And they've got a proverbial hard-on for the state election board in Georgia and the election integrity cases in Georgia. It says American Oversight, a government accountability nonprofit. Okay. Sorry, guys. Had to do it. That wasn't a Swalwell fart. That was an actual mouth raspberry or whatever you call it. Remember when Swalwell farted on TV when he was talking about the Trump impeachment? I think it was the Trump impeachment. A government accountability nonprofit accused the election board of, quote unquote, improperly filing an amicus brief. We'll have this fight again. In support of Trump's effort to seize Fulton County's voter rolls, Liz Hempowich, that sounds about right. Hempwich. Don't disparage hemp, by the way. But Liz Hempowich, Deputy Executive Director of American Oversight, said in a statement that the amicus brief showed the election board had been meeting in secret, which violates Georgia's open meeting laws. Quote, it appears, cover your ass word right there. It appears, be definitive, please, be definitive. Say they are. Don't say it appears plausible deniability, right? It appears that a majority of state election board members coordinated official business in secret and then presented it publicly in a way that suggested it reflects the views of the board itself, Hempowich said. It is especially troubling that those actions are used to advance conspiratorial election claims under the guise of official duties without following required legal processes. Okay. So that's the claim right there, that the Georgia State Election Board is meeting in secret in violation of open meeting laws and everything else. Let's go ahead and look at the actual brief that they filed. All right. This is in Pitts versus United States, April 13th. It was filed, uploaded on the 16th. And let's go ahead and look at this because we bring receipts. Brief of current and former Georgia election officials. Let me read that again. Okay, hold on. Brief of current and former Georgia election officials as amici curiae in support of the probable cause affidavit in opposition to the amended petition. Now, let me ask you, can you conduct, and I'm going to ask the chat this, can you conduct official business with unofficial members, with former members? Can you do that? Just a show of hands, like can former congressmen come in and vote in Congress and say, I'm a former congressman, but I want to come in and vote? Can Eric Swalwell all of a sudden come back and be like, hey, I got to cast my vote for that. I'm a former member. No, so it's not an official capacity. It should be known right there when they say former Georgia election officials. The amici are current and past members of the Georgia State Election Board, the Board of Elections in Fulton County, and election boards of other counties whose electors could be adversely affected. So it's not just Fulton County. They're current and past members of the State Election Board, the Board of Elections in Fulton County, and election boards of other counties. So it's what was it? The State Election Board members are acting in official business. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not sharing the screen. So the State Election Board members, let me zoom all the way in so you guys can read it. The State Election Board members are coordinating official business, but that official business involves former members of the State Election Board, board members of the Fulton County Election Board, and election boards of other counties whose electors could be adversely affected. So it's not in the official capacity of the Georgia State Election Board. It's in a group of concerned election officials. Perhaps that's the one thing you should pay attention to. When you have a bunch of election officials that get together and like, yeah, guys, this is legit. You need to look at this. We've been screaming about this for years. You need to look at this. American oversight, F off. All right. We land that there. And because all shows are why we vote now, we'll just cover this briefly. Abigail Spanberger signed HB 965, which puts Virginia into the National Popular Vote Compact. And what does this mean? This means that in Virginia, your vote means nothing. They watered your vote down in Virginia. Now, granted, let me preface this by saying this is not law. The National Popular Vote Compact does not kick in until they reach 270 electoral votes. In other words, I think it's like they have to have like the states, all of their electoral votes accumulatively have to be 270 or more. They're not at that. I think they're at like 222 right now. And so granted, this does not come into effect yet, but it potentially could. And if it does, I think this is going to be wildly unconstitutional. In fact, I think this would be worthy of, if this is upheld, if there's a lawsuit on this and it's upheld and you can't really sue yet because there's no injury yet, there's no damage yet. And people have tried and it's not ripe, right? That's the legal term, I think, is it's not ripe yet because it hasn't been enacted. Once it is enacted, think of it this way. You live in, say, Virginia, right? What's Virginia got? Like probably like 13 million people. What's the population of Virginia? Let's see. Virginia's population is 8.88 million. All right. So you've got almost, let's just round it out and say 9 million. Say you got 70% turnout of all the eligible voters. You got 4 million votes, 3 million votes. Your vote against 3 million votes in your state is not, let's be honest, it's not significant, right? But it's more significant than if you take your 3 million votes and compare that, or your one vote to 3 million, if you compare that to 80 million, 60 million, 30 million. It's a big difference. It's a big difference. Like, imagine voting in Virginia and knowing that you have to vote hard enough to take over California's popular vote, or Texas's. Now, Texas is not in the national popular vote. I think California is. You have to vote. So again, I think this is not just wildly unconstitutional. I think it's absolutely disgusting that they're throwing this at their people. Like, they're literally telling them, we don't give a fuck what you think at the individual state level. But this is the progression of federalism that we've seen since the Reconstruction, since the post-Civil War, and the 13th, 14th, 15th Amendments, the 17th Amendment, the 16th Amendment. This is what we've seen historically over time, is the move from these United States to the United States. We are not the United States. We are these United States. We are a cluster of 50 states with our own individual sovereignty. Anything not outlined expressly in the Constitution is delegated to the states. Now, I don't think anybody in their state says that I, as a sovereign state, want to align with 13 other states or 18 other states or 19 other states, and I want to do exactly what they do. I want them to dictate to me what I do as a Virginian or as a Floridian or as a Texan. Knock this shit off, guys. Like, what are you doing, spam? I mean, but she's CIA. She's a former CIA officer, agent, whatever you want to call her, officer. Why would a former CIA officer ever do that? Because that's what they do. That's what they do. That is the goal. All right. What else are we going to talk about? What else are we going to talk about now? I'm sorry, guys. I spent the last half hour of my prep listening to the Trump thing, so I'm trying to. Do I have the X-Files on here? I don't have the X-Files on here. That's a shame. Can't play the X-Files. So I'm sure you guys have been tracking this story. The now it's up to 11 scientists that all have, huge national security contacts and associations that are missing now. Well, let's go ahead and dig into this a little bit. This is is that Burleson? Yeah, Representative Eric Burleson talking about it. Check this out.
They just literally disappeared, left all of their devices at home. This is not normal. These are some of the most advanced scientists, researchers in our nation, some of the most important people for our nation's national security efforts, and they all just mysteriously disappeared. This is a rattling call to pay attention to this issue and make sure that our nation's top scientists are safe and secure. This is too coincidental, and so we have to be investigating this. We need to have our nation's top investigators, the FBI, and every agency looking into this matter. They just literally disappeared. All
right, so this story is getting a lot of traction now, and I'll bring up this story. I wrote this in early April, so April 2nd. Let's say so 2 weeks ago, almost to the day, more than to the day. A little over 2 weeks ago. The country would come unglued, and this was sparked by the Sentinel Network and a post that they put on X where Tim Burchett, congressman from Tennessee, says, keep digging. And Sentinel Network on X says, let's pull it up. While fireballs fall through roofs in Germany, Ohio, and Houston, the Caltech scientist who tested whether we'd see them coming was shot dead on his porch, Carl Grillmeyer. his killer's charges were dismissed 11 days earlier. Okay, so Carl Grillmare lives in a remote New Mexico home, and 11 days before, a little bit before that, somebody was trespassing on his property with a gun, and he called 911 and had the guy arrested for armed trespassing. That guy was released from prison or from jail. He was not charged or whatever. And then he ends up on Carl Grillmare's front porch and kills him, shoots him dead. Independence Day 2024, Frank Mywald was a senior technical manager at JPL, which is Jet Propulsion Laboratories, building NASA's next generation orbital surveillance instruments. He died at 61. No cause of death, no press release, no memorial. His obituary is the only proof that he existed. Anthony Chavez, Los Alamos, wallet, keys, cigarettes on the table, car locked in the driveway, cadaver dog found nothing. He vanished 6 weeks before Monica Reza. Nobody is reporting on his disappearance. 2 new names, 11 total, 4 states, 19 months. National outlets are running pieces of the picture, and none of them have the full list. And he goes on. It's a great thread. And this was ahead of its time. This was back in March. And I'm going to put this thread in the chat for you all. There you go. Yeah, one person, one vote. It's like MH370. Maybe the scientists were teleported to John Galt Island. Well, we don't have Diego Garcia anymore. The Brits gave that up, so it's not there. Yeah. Crazy. Crap. Sorry, guys. Bear with me for 1 second. Like I said, this was the last little bit of prep I had to do before we started. So I want to play the Burchett clip because I played it. We didn't have a week in review last week because I was in Nashville in Burchett's state, ironically, doing GART, and I wasn't able to do this. So I want to play this clip here. Oh, maybe not.
I don't have the tinfoil hat on just yet, Congressman, but I'm wondering, kind of how you react to that because you are connected. You're on the UFO subcommittee. I mean, I'm just wondering what you make of that. Have you heard anything like that?
Well, I'm still a member of Congress, so I can't really comment too much on what Matt said. But I will say this.
Wait, seriously? Are you being serious or is that tongue in cheek?
I'm being 100% serious. Okay. I've been 100% serious. I've been briefed by just about every alphabet agency there is. And I'll just tell you this, if they would release the things that I've seen, you would stay up, you'd be up at night worrying about or thinking about this stuff. We just need to disclose it all. I'm sick of it. Well, I was briefed. I'll just tell you this. I was briefed last week on an issue, 2 weeks ago. And it would have set the earth on it. This country would have come unglued, I think, if they would have heard all that I heard. They would demand answers. And we need to. But it's never going to get, unfortunately, it just keeps getting covered up. And the people that know are dying or disappearing, as the case may be.
Wow.
And for the record, I'm not suicidal and I don't take risks. So,
I'm glad you said that. I'm speechless, Congressman. We will have you back.
You should be. And I told the president, release it all. And the problem is the people that are around the president don't know and the president doesn't know the questions to ask. A few of us are going to have to get with the president and tell him what he needs to ask and where he needs to look. I mean, we're in meetings and they give addresses and tell locations of items, I'll just say. And the public has a right to know, dadgummit. It's your tax dollars.
Absolutely.
Let's get it out there.
You got me.
So, again, a lot of people hear Burchett say the president doesn't know the questions to ask. And they're like, oh, trust me, he knows. Guys, there is so much in this country that goes on. And the idea that a single person knows everything to say, everything to ask, everything to do is crazy. And so I hope President Trump hears Burchett say that. I know that he has high regard for Representative Burchett, and I'm hoping he listens to him. And we did hear yesterday or 2 days ago that there was a brief in the White House on these scientists missing. Not the irony, but the coincidence of them all missing, within a year or so of each other, and the ties that they all have to each other through different labs, the Air Force Research Lab, the Jet Propulsion Lab, the New Mexico Research Lab. All of this is big stuff. All right. Mods, take them out. Take them out, mods. All of this is big stuff. And you got to wonder what's going on here, right? So Matt Gaetz comes out last week or a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, whatever it was, and says, you'll be surprised at how many people are hybrids of aliens. Could be. I mean, this is where you need the X-File thing. But when you hear all of these high whatever scientists go missing, and we'll get into a Fox News article on it here in a second, you got to wonder why. Like, what's going on with this? Why are some missing? Why are some dead? Are the ones that are missing dead? Or are the ones that are missing someplace safe doing something, working on something? A lot of predictive programming out there in the media. The movie Greenland 1 and 2, they made 2 of them. I mean, Paradise, another big one. The TV show Paradise it started on Hulu. I think it's on Disney Plus now. Severance on Apple. Just a lot of shows that have, some significant plot lines to, when you hear this guy was detecting whether or not we would see a comet heading towards Earth, right? And Greenland is all about, was it an asteroid or a comet? I couldn't tell you the difference between the two. I think an asteroid is, a meteor is broken pieces. An asteroid is the whole thing. I don't know, whatever. A big chunk of rock flying at tens of thousands of miles an hour at Earth, that if it hits, one that they say, if it's a mile wide, whatever the case might be, it could be an extinction level event. And, you wonder, why are these people ended up missing? I don't know. Is there something going on, something we don't know about? Is it aliens? Is it, a catastrophic extinction level event that could be, there was another TV show, and it never went anywhere, but the guy was like a billionaire. It was like Elon Musk almost, right? And he partners up with this MIT kid, and he has to see if I'm gonna speak about this plot line until somebody tells me what it is, because I might want to go back and rewatch this. But he partners up with this MIT kid, and they have to develop a 3-body problem. By the way, is another one. 3-body problem is another one. Remember, they build the device to go out and destroy what was it, a comet or was it a UFO? I can't remember. I'm gonna have to rewatch that one too, because season 2 is coming out soon. Anyways, the kid figures out a way to make a propulsion system that is just like a slow vibration. But when you're in space and there's no friction, there's no resistance, that vibration can accumulate exponentially. And, something that could only propel you to maybe a mile per hour down here on Earth, in space can propel you to, if you have enough time and distance, light speed, right? Because there's no air resistance. There's no resistance. Yeah, friction. Can't think of the name of that show. Driving me crazy. But anyway, so we've got all these scientists missing. Fox News, missing general scientist deaths tied to secret U.S. work, prompt White House probe. Air Force Major General William Neal McCaskill, who once oversaw some of the military's most advanced and highly classified research programs, reportedly vanished from their Albuquerque ranch. McCaskill left behind his phone, but it did not leave behind his wallet and a .38 caliber revolver that were missing. McCaskill's disappearance is one of 10 recent cases involving scientists tied to U.S. military and government research that have drawn attention, including at the White House, where officials say they were looking at the matter after being asked about a potential pattern. And there's McCaskill there. Let's see. We've got Monica Jacinto Reza, disappeared June 22nd, 2025. She was hiking with a friend in the Angeles National Forest and near Los Angeles on a well-traveled trail at 9 a.m. on the morning of her disappearance. According to the sheriff's department, the friend was about 30 feet ahead and told police he turned around to check on her, and she smiled and waved, indicating she was fine. The friend turned back to continue, and when he looked back again, she was gone. It says he immediately alerted authorities, who sent out search parties. Since then, there have been no sightings or any trace of Reza or her belongings. Reza was an aerospace engineer and the co-creator of Mondaloy, a nickel-based alloy capable of withstanding the extreme heat of rocket engines. At the time of her disappearance, she was the director of materials processing at NASA's JPL. Reza's work in advanced rocket material was funded in part by the Air Force Research Lab. You've seen the comparisons here, JPL and the AFRL. The same organization McCaskill later led, placing the two in overlapping corners of the defense research ecosystem. Stephen Garcia disappeared August 28, 2025, was last seen at his home in Albuquerque, left behind his phone, wallet, car keys. Garcia was a government contract tied to the Kansas City National Security Campus, a key facility responsible for producing a vast majority of non-nuclear components used in the U.S. nuclear weapons arsenal. His role reportedly gave him high-level security clearance and oversight. Authorities initially warned Garcia may be danger to himself. Both Garcia and McCaskill lived in the same region in New Mexico, a hub for U.S. nuclear and defense research, though authorities have not confirmed any connection between the cases. There's Garcia there. Carl Grillmar, that's the guy we talked about, also found with all of his stuff on the front. Oh, no, he's the one that was found dead. Excuse me. Grillmar had been working on major NASA-backed missions, including the Hubble and Spitzer space telescopes, contributing to research on galactic structure, dark matter, and the search for habitable planets. Nuno Lorio, killed December 15th, 2025. The director, she was the renowned at the Massachusetts a renowned MIT physicist and director of the university's Plasma Science and Fusion Center, was shot in her home in Brookline, Mass, and died from the injuries. The killing came within months of the disappearance of McCaskill and the fatal shooting of Grillmare, adding to growing attention around the series. Lorio was a leading figure in fusion energy research, studying plasma physics and working on technologies aimed at harnessing near limitless clean energy. Authorities later linked his killing, to a suspect connected to a separate mass shooting at Brown University days earlier. Remember that one? Investigators said the suspect had previously attended university with Loureiro in Portugal, died by suicide after the attacks. Remember that one? How do you cover up a mass shooting? How do you cover up an assassination or even a kidnapping, assuming she's actually dead? You disguise it as a mass shooting. When we were talking about the Epstein files, we had that one series from the guy who was like in Mexico and was claiming all sorts of crazy things, right? And as he's talking with the investigator in New York via email, he says, I'm going to have to go back home because my nephew was killed in a mass shooting I think it was in Indiana. It was at a Cracker Barrel. And, I started thinking, like, when you're dealing with something at this level, that's a threat directly at you. That could be a threat, a veiled threat. If somebody kills a loved one, that's a threat. How do you make an assassination look like just a random act? You disguise as a mass shooting, and then it doesn't look like an assassination anymore. Could be. Let's jump back into this. Frank Maywald, longtime engineer at NASA's Jet Propulsion Lab in Los Angeles, went missing on Independence Day. The only widely available public record of Maywald's death is a brief online obituary. No cause of death has been disclosed, and reporting indicates no autopsy was performed. Maywald spent decades at the JPL developing advanced instruments used to study Earth and distant planetary environments, including tools capable of detecting chemical signatures such as water and organic molecules. His work focused on building instruments capable of detecting chemical signatures, including water, organic molecules, and other indicators scientists use to assess whether environments beyond Earth could support life. Melissa Casillas, June 26, 2025. Let's see. She was an administrative employee with security clearance at Los Alamos National Laboratory. Left work to spend time in Taos, New Mexico. At one point, her niece told local media she picked up a Subway sandwich and dropped it off for her daughter, who was working in a coffee shop. When family members returned home, they found her car, purse, keys, both her personal and work-issued phones inside. The phones had been factory reset, wiping recent data and communications. Family members have strongly pushed back on the idea that she left voluntarily. All of her friends tell us it's not like her. The family added that Casillas has been preparing to care for her mother. Despite multiple searches, no confirmed trace of Casillas has been found since that afternoon. And it goes on. You guys get the point. These are all very mysterious. I mean, this isn't like this is very, very mysterious. DeMarcus Jefferson shoots 10 people on the south side of Chicago, not a mass shooting. Dave Anderson shoots a guy in self-defense in Texas. Okay. I'm not sure where you're going with that, but so remember the Buffalo mass shooting? And one of the victims was a guy that was like very outspoken about a creation he made where you could turn water into fuel to fuel vehicles. That's the kind of thing you would see. That to me, that screamed assassination. Whether it's MK Ultra, whether it's, whatever the case might be, some program that we don't even know, who knows? Tim Pool says it's a coincidence. Well, I mean, he's entitled to his opinion. It could be a coincidence. Who knows? Occam's razor, right? The simplest solution is always the most logical. Maybe not. Maybe not. But it's strange as shit that all of this is coming out as Congress is talking about aliens and everything else. Maybe we're about to be visited. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. All right, let's move away from the X-Files crap and move into the Swalwell Files crap. So this was the big story last week. Eric Swalwell, now out of Congress, dropped out of the governor's race. And you got this video here. I guess there's no audio in this video. This is Eric Swalwell allegedly in a hotel room with a prostitute, a hooker, sex worker, whatever you want to call her, porn star, whatever the case might be. And we don't know who that guy is yet. Let me make it full screen. Yep, we don't know who that guy is. I'm leaning towards Ruben Gallego, but that could just be me. So Swalwell is now out. He's got several accusers coming forward, including former staffers accusing him of actually drugging them and raping them. Heinous, disgusting shit coming from the Swalwell camp right now. Very concerning. The FBI knows. Yeah, I'm sure the FBI does know. I think we're going to find out it's Gallego. I firmly believe that. That was around the same time that Gallego was his campaign manager for his 2020 presidential run. And so, Gallego's come out and talked about how close their friendship was. Family friends and all that stuff. So, it is kind of interesting. Una Panuna Banca, Anna Paulina Luna, had come out, and let me play her clip real quick first because it kind of needs to predate this. Woo! That is way too fast. We don't need to hear Jesse Waters at 1 3/4 speed.
Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna is on the Oversight Committee, and she joins us now. All right, Congressman, what was Swalwell like in Congress? Did he have a rep?
Yeah, he did have a reputation. And as you know, Jesse, I was actually the member of Congress that wrote the expulsion resolution for him. And I was ready to call it up and did tell him that if he did not resign by tomorrow, that it would be filed. And we did have the votes to expel him from Congress. So what I will say is that many people on the Hill knew about this. Many reporters have come forward, even in talking to me, saying that they had heard stories about this. But I do think that he has serious criminal problems on his hand. And I do think that he might end up in jail, Jesse. And if I could just share with you for a moment, not only did I receive forensic reporting showing that, that infamous video of him in the hotel room was indeed him. It was not AI generated. But I'm also being told that, more stuff is going to be dropping in the next 24 hours. And then also potentially the individual that recorded that video in that hotel room, Jesse, was a female and she was underage.
Boom. The one that recorded it, not the one sitting next to Gallego, which that is going to be very bad for Gallego because, look, you've got 4 people in a room and Swalwell is groping all over the sex worker, and it's a female that's recording the groping of the sex worker, and she's underage, and Swalwell is probably going to do a little Swalwell. Somebody else might do some Swalwell a little later on, if you know what I mean. It's kind of gross. But Gallego's there with the underage girl. Was that Gallego's date? I don't know. Or was that, excuse me, let me backtrack. Let me rephrase that because we do not have confirmation that's Gallego, just our own personal opinions. Let me backtrack. Was that girl, the underage girl, alleged underage girl, potentially underage girl, was that Gallego's date? And if that's the case, were both of them, the men in that video, Swalwell and the unidentified man that I believe to be Ruben Gallego, were they engaged in soliciting a prostitute? And was one of them engaged in soliciting a prostitute that is underage? Some huge things coming out of here. Now, this has Gallego absolutely freaking out. And we will play. Please tell me I have Gallego freaking out. Do I not have Gallego freaking out? Am I doing you guys that much of an injustice by not having Gallego's freak out? I think I am, and I am so sorry. Well, Gallego's freaking out. He did a press conference. How do I not have this? Stand by. I've got to have this. I really don't. Are you kidding me? Did I bookmark this? See, this is what happens when I get distracted by an amazing, absolutely incredible President Trump press conference. I get distracted, and then I end up, here it is. Here it is. Sorry, guys. There we go. Hey, let me just real quick. Let me preface this. I am going to shut down like I always do. I always do this every week in review. I'm going to be shutting down the Twitter feed here momentarily. And again, I'll be completely upfront with you guys. It is for me because I do this, this is what I do for a living, and there is no monetization on Twitter. So if you guys could jump over to Rumble or YouTube, Rumble obviously helps out a lot. Rumble has been the beacon of free speech as we've gone through the censorship era of the Biden regime and just in general, the censorship era. So if you guys could jump over there, and I'm going to shut it down after this clip of Gallego. And thank you guys all so much on X. If you're watching on any other platform, just smash that thumbs up and share it out real quick. If you can, take 2 seconds to share it out. Let's play this clip, and then we got a lot more to talk about.
I don't know what's going on with his family, but it's definitely a horrible situation for family. They're using that as a cover.
I want you guys to pay attention to Gallego's body language in this. Pay attention to his body language.
To attack me right now because they can't do it. They couldn't take back 2024 because they ran a horrible race. But now this is what they want to do. They just want to hurt me as much as they can. Presidents, everything else like that, I don't care. We're going to wait. And that's not even a thing right now. The most important thing is I want to protect my family. I want to protect my family's reputation. And this is why we're talking about right now.
Senator, you've gone on trips, on vacations, officially, unofficially. You've gone out, presumably, with the congressman. You've never even witnessed him, I don't know, engaging in an affair?
No.
Never.
What about? No.
How do you explain some of the photos though online? I know you addressed one, but there is another one that shows both of you without shirts. I mean, how do you address some of those compromising photos?
We were on a beach.
I think you were on in the desert and on some camels.
It was a beach and a camel, but it's a beach. Yeah.
What were the
It was just very. It was flirty. That was flirty.
And that was when? About what year was it?
I mean, that was through. We've heard that. We've heard that throughout.
Senator, you just said, thank
Right.
you so much. I want to clarify because in the beginning,
No, I know
you
we'll
said-
go back there.
In the beginning, you said when you first heard these rumors a few weeks ago, that's when you called him. Then you said you've heard these rumors for years. So which one is it, Senator?
So I heard rumors of him being flirty
And that wasn't an issue enough for you to not trust him to watch your kids or be close with him?
because you hear this, and then when you're close to somebody and you know his wife, you see this, you see that relationship, you know that like it maybe just isn't true.
Have you asked him about it prior to this few weeks?
I asked him about it a few weeks ago when it started coming up online.
Why
Yes.
when you
Yes.
ask him about
Okay.
it if you're running his campaign, sir?
I mean, his body language in that video is crazy. I mean, his body language is absolutely crazy in that video. Like, he is shaking. He is shaking. Let me play this again. I'm going to mute it and just play it in the background. And just, he is stressing out. I mean, he's got his hands, look at his hands on his face right there. His arms are crossed. He's speaking with his hands. He's looking around. He's rushing his speaking. I mean, these are all, like, if you're doing an interrogation, if you are a qualified interrogator, these are all things that you're going to be picking up on. Rapid hand movements, covering his face. He's going to go to his head several times. Shaking, back and forth. He's kind of stumbling around his speech, crosses his arms again. That's a sign of insecurity. I mean, man, I think he's seeing the writing on the wall here. Look at that. These are all, the hands clenched up here. This is very defensive. This is very insecure, shaken. I've got a feeling this guy has a lot of skeletons in his closet. I mean, this is not sped up. As far as I know. Well, this actually might be sped up a little bit looking at the bottom here. Let's do it. Let's do a test here. I'm going to do a test here. I want to know if this video is sped up. Let's go back and see 127. All right, so we got 127, 127, 127, 127, 127, 127. I can't tell for certain if this is sped up or not. All right, so this goes to 128 right there. And there's... Oh, it's chopped up too. That's the bad thing. All right, so we can't do a test on that. I don't know. What do you guys think? Is that sped up? Is that sped up? I don't know. But again, this is a guy that, he rose through the ranks. He's a senator now. He's from Arizona. It's a key swing state. There's a lot of controversy around his election against Kari Lake. I still think there was fraud in that. I think the governor race, her and Kari Lake and Katie Hobbs, was absolutely stolen. But I think he's concerned. And I think that he knows that his relationship with Eric Swalwell is going to be detrimental to his career. His career in politics is going to suffer immensely from this. And he's freaking out. Now, can he turn state's witness? Can he be a witness against Swalwell? Sure. But you can't do that if you are also going to be, incriminated, if it's going to blow back on you. All right, so we're going to keep talking about this, but I am going to shut down the X feed. To all those on X, jump over to Rumble or YouTube. Thank you guys all so much for tuning in. If you decide not to, I appreciate it. I hope you guys are as excited about President Trump's executive order, the research, as I am. And God bless you all. Thank you guys all so much for tuning in. I hope to see you on Rumble, but if not, God bless. All right, signing off to X. And boom, we're done. Exclusively now on Rumble and YouTube. And let's keep going here. Let's keep going. So where were we? So again, I think Swalwell resigned from Congress to avoid this right here. So he resigned immediately following this announcement that the statement of the chairman and ranking member of the committee ethics regarding Representative Eric Swalwell, pursuant to committee rule number 7, the chairman and ranking member determined to release the following statement. The committee, pursuant to committee rule 18A, has begun an investigation and will gather additional information regarding the allegations that Representative Swalwell violated the code of official conduct or any law, rule, regulation, or other applicable standard of conduct in the performance of his duties or the discharge of his responsibilities with respect to allegations that he may have engaged in sexual misconduct, including towards an employee working under his supervision. So he dodged that completely. However, you cannot dodge the law. Always. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. From the Hill, Los Angeles DA says Swalwell is now under investigation. All right, so moving on. Just the News puts out that federal prosecutors in D.C. want to interview Swalwell victims and may pierce their secret settlements. And that, let's kind of skip ahead on this real quick and just cover a headline here because it's something we talked about a month ago. From NBC News, House kills effort to release all congressional sexual misconduct and harassment reports. And so this is a case where Congress has broadly protected themselves, right? Congress hides behind the speech and debate clause on everything. You know, we could say whatever we want to say, and we're immune to civil action, criminal action, lawsuits, whatever the case. Well, maybe not criminal, but we're immune to being sued because we have the speech and debate clause of the Constitution. Okay, that's not how the speech and debate clause was meant to be construed. That you can say whatever you want. You can defame American citizens. They can literally do that. You can go up in front of Congress, and if it's as a congressman or woman, you can go up and say, CanCon is blank, and call me the most atrocious thing you could possibly think, and it's all in the name of speech and debate. And if you censor them or you sue them, it comes back on you, and it can deter people from being able to engage with Congress, et cetera, et cetera. It's bullshit. So they vote down this rule to make sexual misconduct and harassment investigations and reports private, right? They don't release them to the public. They pay out settlements. There's, you know, some of these settlements are 18. So they've paid out $18 million taxpayer money to harassment and misconduct claims amongst staffers and everything else. I think the Swalwell files are more impactful in the contemporary, meaning right now, than the Epstein files. And when I say Swalwell files, I'm broadly talking about Congress as a whole, politics as a whole. And I think there's an overlap there, right? I think there's an overlap between what Congress is doing and what Epstein was doing, right? He's obviously trying to blackmail. Epstein was trying to blackmail and get blackmail. The number one currency in all of Washington, D.C., blackmail, more valuable than the U.S. dollar, more valuable than a Bitcoin, blackmail. I think there's a lot of skeletons in their closet, and barking up the Epstein tree leads to no accountability because Epstein's dead. Maxwell's already locked up, and the likelihood of getting these other folks out right now and getting out in the open is not much. I think DOJ is working on that. I think DOJ has a conspiracy case, a RICO case going on, racketeering, excuse me, behind the scenes. And I don't think we're going to be subject or privy to that for maybe another year or two. But the Swalwell files, that's our own elected officials that we should be holding accountable every single fucking day. Every single day. We should be holding them accountable. And they hide this type of stuff. They hide their crimes. They hide their misuse of taxpayer funds to cover up their sexual deviancy and perversions. And we're just supposed to be like, oh, nothing to see here. Yeah, fuck off. We're done with that stuff. It says U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro, the chief federal prosecutor in the nation's capital, says she is seeking to interview any female victims who alleged to have been assaulted by Representative Eric Swalwell in D.C. and may seek to obtain any secret agreements Congress paid to keep accusers quiet. If federal prosecutors pierce the settlement agreements as part of a probe, it could allow accusers to testify before a grand jury, despite an NDA. And it would also allow for the settlement and its underlying facts to be used in any investigation by Pirro's team. Let's go. Where is the next video that I wanted to play? Here it is. So this is the next video of Epstein, of Swalwell. This is the next video from the Swalwell files.
Throwing petals like, do you love me or not? Head is spinning and it don't know when to stop. She said forever, babe, did you mean it or not? Hold on, hold on. Leave me on red, babe, but I still get the message. Instead of a line, it's dots, but I can connect them. And if it ain't right, babe, you know I respect it. If you need time, just take your time. Honey, I get it, I get it, I get it.
Like, what the fuck is that?
Way
You're gonna put a boombox in front of his and then low crawl?
you got me all in my head. Think I'd rather you in my bed. Whatever it is, you know I can take it. I'm counting the days, how many days till I can see you again. Your kisses like we catch 'em at night. Cupid with arrows, babe, I'm just shooting my shot. If I could get in, drop me a pin, hop in the whip and come over. Don't wanna be friends, just in the skin, I wanna get closer.
So let's get into what you just watched right there. All right. What you just watched right there. According to Page 6, bleary-eyed Eric Swalwell wears a robe, parties with quote-unquote yacht girls during quote-unquote hush-hush Saint-Tropez blowout wild video shows. Sources tell us that in early September of 2022, two of Swalwell's pals jetted by private plane from Vegas to the French Riviera town, where they chartered the 200-foot Ariance yacht and called Swalwell to come join them. We're told the now former congressman arrived by commercial flight and joined them by tender on the stunning luxury craft. Tender meaning he took a little boat to get out there. So two of his buddies fly out there on a private jet. I looked up the Ariance. It's a 200-foot yacht. It costs $650,000 per week to rent, to charter. That includes crew. However, that typically does not include a tip. You tip crew when you're done. So, 20, 30%, you're going to tip them of the cost of the trip. You're looking at probably tipping them $100,000, something like that. I don't know the details. I could get the details. I have a lot of buddies down here in South Florida. They're yacht captains, and I could figure out what the typical tip is. But I know there's a lot of other things. I would venture to say that this trip right here probably cost a little over $1 million, maybe $1.5 million, just in the boat itself. Right? That's just the boat itself. That doesn't include, like I said, the tips, any things like that. Hold on one second. I just accidentally deleted something that I'm not ready to delete yet because I need it again. So let's jump back into this. It says here, we're told there were some 4 or 5 men on the boat, including Swalwell, and a group of beautiful young women. According to our source, one of the women, a Brit, believed to be in her late teens, appeared to be romantically involved with one of the men in the group, but the 5 or 6 other women, a mix of Brits and Americans who were a little older, apparently in their 20s, seemed otherwise unacquainted both with the group and with each other. Quote, it didn't seem like a politician, said a source familiar with the antics, more like president of a frat house. We were told some of the women seemed to be shipped back to shore, never to return, while others arrived to, quote unquote, replace them. Now, again, I wanted to play this video again. And I said this on Daily. I'm just going to play it in the background. I'm not going to play the music and all that stuff. There's no audio. So we'll just mute that. But I mean, Swalwell, let's just go back and examine this. I want you to remember 2022 right now. He's married. He's married. This is after the Fang Fang expose, right? This is after he's been sleeping with a Chinese spy. He didn't learn. He was the chairman of the modernization or whatever of the Intel House Permanent Select Committee, House Select Permanent Committee on Intelligence, the HSPCI. He is, so he's on the highest intelligence committee in our U.S. Congress, in our House of Representatives. He was banging a Chinese spy. I think he got kicked off of that committee after that, but remained in Congress. And he falls hook, line, and sinker for another trap. That's the only way I could describe this. So here you see him pretty effed up. Now you've got very attractive women up on stage dancing, looking like they're having a great time. Got the freeze frame. Let's see what we see in the background here. You got one guy here, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You got like 6 other people back there. You got a dude up on the stage with them dancing. You got some guys here. This looks like a pretty good party. Yeah, those are I look, guys, my wife would never let me go to a party like that for a week. Nor would I ever want to. I mean, I'd want to, but I wouldn't. Totally kidding, guys. Look at that ship, man. That is a beautiful yacht. All right, we can skip over this part. This is purely, in my opinion, this is to get him on blackmail. And then you put a boombox. I would love to know what that boombox is playing right there. And then, of course, then you've got this. Let's just highlight the goods. The goods. It's crazy, man. Eric Swalwell got honeypotted. He learned nothing from the Fang and was like, honey, I gotta go over to San Tropez. Did he tell his wife that he was going to San Tropez? Oh Swalwell, what were you doing, bro? Like, this is a guy just like Gallego that has presidential aspirations, gubernatorial aspirations. They're hoping to rise to the highest level in politics. Why? Not because they want to affect change, not because they want to party, because they're only out there for their own self-indulgent. They're out there to have a good time, to meet loose women, do drugs, drink, whatever the case might be, and go out and feel like they are among the elites because they are the policymakers and they have power, and they are probably all in somebody's pocket because of stupidity like that. When you go out there walking around on a yacht with beautiful young women in a robe, even if he didn't do anything, even if Swalwell didn't do anything, the narrative is laid with that. That will you will never be able to convince everybody. He just went there for a really nice vacation and to sip martinis or pina coladas on the back of a yacht. Nobody believes that. Nobody believes that. Your two buddies come out and they're like, bro, they're on FaceTime, right? They're screening around. They're like, look at all these dimes, bro. That woman right there, that woman right there. All these beautiful women. And guess what? After a day or two, we ship them off and we bring in 5 more beautiful women. And Swalwell's like, pack my bags. I'm on my way. Honey, I got to go to a really, really boring meeting in Poland. I got to meet with some EU parliamentarians, and you're not going to like it. So you just stay here, take care of the kids. I don't know if he has kids or not. It's disgusting, man. Disgusting. Now, the other thing that's interesting to me is the guy that he's with on that boat, Nick Ritchie. You can see right here, Nick Ritchie, Esquire did this piece on him. Nick Ritchie quietly built one of America's most influential public relations firms. A public relations firm. That's sounding like something I've heard before. Quote, traditional PR firms still think a Wall Street Journal mention is the be-all, end-all, Ritchie says. I respect that, but in today's world, a viral TikTok can move markets faster than a press clipping. We build our campaigns with that reality in mind. Ritchie first rose to prominence in the late 2000s with TheDirty.com, a user-generated gossip platform that gained notoriety for its anonymous submissions about celebrities and everyday people alike. Critics accused it of being reckless, but Ritchie's unfiltered approach tapped into the cultural zeitgeist of a digital era obsessed with rawness and immediacy. So this guy owns the Warrior Network Agency, and I'm not going to make any accusations here, but it sounds to me like he's got a lot of influence. Now, I have done a little bit of digging on this guy, and apparently this is something a little bit before my time of getting really wrapped up in kind of the, not in the mainstream, but kind of the alternative zeitgeist, so to speak. And there was a woman back in the day that worked for him at the Dirty named Melissa Lively Rain. And during COVID, she was a PR rep for them, and she was, pretty affluent, it seems like. But during COVID, it seems like she kind of went a little screwy in their terms, not in ours. And they named her QAnon Karen. And I guess that's because she was out there dropping N-bombs like she was saying the N-word or something. But apparently she went into Target and was like the store Target, and was like throwing masks at people and telling them, take off your mask, and all this shit, right? And so Richie fires her, and she sends him a letter. I read the letter this morning. This was back in 2020, 2021. It's all taken down now, which is interesting. You have to archive it in order to read it. But it seems like this guy probably was more in line with the establishment, you know, kind of the toe in the line, get along to get along, go along to get along, that kind of thing. So look, I'm not making any claims here, but this guy bringing Swalwell on this boat, $650,000 rental, you know, however much it costs, women coming in and out, calling him in one of the captions, the governor, the future governor of California. It is clear that this is an attempt to gain influence, whether you overtly say, hey, I'll give you this, you got to do what I need. I mean, it doesn't work that way, right? Blackmail, coercion, that's the number one currency. So Swalwell going away, I am okay with it. No problems there. Nancy Pelosi was caught off guard by it. I avert your eyes if you have issues with the vodka queen.
Some Republicans and others are saying that Democrats turned kind of a blind eye, that they knew what he was up to.
No,
or
it's
what
not
the
true. That
allegations
is absolutely positive. And it's true that they may say that, but it is absolutely not
You had
true.
no idea.
None whatsoever. None whatsoever. I had none whatsoever.
What happens in California now? He was in many of the polls, the leading candidate.
Yes, he was.
That's gone. There's an army of candidates out there. And California has this quirky law, because it's ranked primaries, right? Where you could end up with 2 Republicans on the ballot.
Well, it is.
How does that?
I agree that it is a quirky law. I do not agree that there'll be 2 Republicans at the top.
Some Republicans and others are.
So Nancy Pelosi has no idea that all this was going on. And so ABC7 out in California brings Willie Brown back to life. Y'all remember Willie Brown? Brown going down. Kamala. Can we call her whatever we want now? That was he was the not the attorney, the district attorney that she was working under, and literally working under, sometimes on top. Yeah, so Willie Brown is brought back into the mainstream here. Quote, every member in Congress knows not to let any young staffer around Swalwell or Matt Gaetz. It's not a secret there, says Kevin McCarthy. So first they invoke Kevin McCarthy, who takes a shot at Matt Gaetz. I don't know the context of that. I've reached out to Matt Gaetz to get some clarification or statement. Haven't gotten one, but that's okay. Kevin McCarthy has an axe to grind with Matt Gaetz. Matt Gaetz has been cleared of his wrongdoing. And again, when he was single, I've got no problem. Like, so check this out. If Eric Swalwell goes and does what he does on that yacht and he's single, is it a bad look? Yeah, it's a really bad look. Is there some campaign finance violations and gifting issues if it's not declared? Yeah, that's a bad look as well. But do I have as much of a moral problem with it? No. I have issues, and I think that he's bought and paid for at that point. But the blackmail is a lot more difficult when you're a single guy and you're on a boat and you're a bachelor and you're out there doing what you do. That's not the big deal. The big deal is when you can use that to say, hey, if you don't do this, if you don't pass this bill, or if you don't support this, or, you know, if I need to get out of this, or I need my company to get this contract, or I'm going to, you know, your wife might get the video that we had of the camera set up in your stateroom on the yacht, you're in some trouble. And so again, the Matt Gaetz invocation to me is just, or invoking Matt Gaetz in that, is more in line with Kevin McCarthy having an axe to grind, because Matt Gaetz is the guy that took away the speakership from him. Matt Gaetz destroyed Kevin McCarthy's career. Why? All in the name of populism. He destroyed it on January 5th, 2023, when he went 15 rounds to get McCarthy elected. Well, he made it go 15 rounds to get him elected to the speakership, and then held him accountable and called back the vote, the one-person vote to remove and impeach the speaker. Not impeach, but to remove. And now Kevin McCarthy is out of Congress. And I think that he has an axe to grind on that. But that's besides the point. The Swalwell thing, I mean, we're seeing that come to fruition. Nothing ever came to fruition on Matt Gaetz. And again, Matt Gaetz was single. He's now married. I think his wife is named Ginger. So that it is what it is there. Former San Francisco Mayor Willie Brown, downtown Willie Brown, said that the allegations were not unexpected, citing longstanding talk among Democratic leaders. Quote, "No, I am not surprised, frankly, because there have been rumors after rumors after rumors." His colleagues in Washington pretty much said that. That's what Adam Schiff said. That's what Nancy Pelosi said, Brown said. But Nancy just told us that she didn't know what was going on. And then just hysterically, my favorite quote from Willie Brown is right here. This one right here. "Money is beginning to mean something in political races. And when you can't raise it, you may be at a terrible disadvantage," Brown said. So maybe take everything Brown said with a grain of salt, because money has been a significant player in elections since Citizens United, and probably even further back than that, of course. I think we all know further back than that. But I think Citizens United is what really opened the floodgates to Congress. And then the last thing before we start to move on from this topic and get into some not so worn down and beat up topics, Representative Tony Gonzalez, he resigned as well. And this one kind of went under the radar a little bit because of the Swalwell story. So Gonzalez is the one that had an affair with a staffer, and then the staffer, Gonzalez was married, and I believe the staffer was she married? I think she was married. I think they were getting divorced, or this led to them getting divorced. She lit herself on fire. He lit herself on fire, allegedly, and burned to death. And then Gonzalez came out and was like, there were rumors that Gonzalez was having an affair with her. And he's like, no, I'm not having an affair with her. And then came out that he was actually having an affair with her. And look at his bio right here. Holy crap. These people are fucking scumbags. These people are scumbags. Husband and father to six, and you're fucking banging your intern, a staffer. What a disgusting piece of shit, man. What a disgusting piece of shit. Why do we have the scummiest motherfuckers? And I'm sorry, that just pissed me off. I didn't see the father of six until just now. Why do we have the scummiest people in our Congress? Oh, yeah, because they're the ones that can be bought. And when you have fake elections, you ensure the people that are in your pocket win those elections. Zach had Tony Gonzalez feet to the fire for months. Yeah, we've talked about him many times throughout this. I know Zach stayed on it. We've talked about him on daily, all sorts of stuff. I've written about, I don't know if I've actually written about him, but yeah, we've definitely covered that a bunch of times. Yep. Fake elections. Yep. 100%. All right, let's go ahead and hit another sponsor, guys. And let's check out the Kids Guide, guys. Parents, real talk for a second. America is about to hit a huge milestone. We're coming up on America's 250th birthday. 250 years of freedom, grit, sacrifice, and the greatest experiment in self-government the world has ever seen. This is the perfect moment to help your kids understand why this country matters. It's not just fireworks and hot dogs, but it's the story behind it all. There is a free guide called The Kids Guide to America's 250th Birthday, and it's honestly a great way to introduce kids to how America began, who the founding fathers were, what they risked, and why the ideas they fought for still matter today. This guide sends kids back to the moment when the brave men signed the Declaration of Independence, knowing full well that they were risking their lives for freedom. It breaks it all down in a way that kids can actually understand and enjoy without watering it down or turning it into a boring schoolwork. If you care about raising kids who know where this country comes from and why it's worth preserving, this is something that you'll want to grab. And the best part, it's completely free. With this special offer, you just need to pay $2 for shipping and handling. Just head to freeusabirthday.com. Again, that's freeusabirthday.com, and the Kids Guide to America's 250th Birthday for your kids is yours today. America's story matters. Make sure that the next generation knows it. All right. I would pick that up, guys. Freeusabirthday.com. guide, $2 to get a guide like that to teach your kids. I mean, that's fantastic, man. And, just saying that, the founders that signed the Declaration knew it's win or die. That's pretty crazy, man. Win or die. Win or go home. They call it in sports. This was way more significant. Okay, so we are all done with that. We are all done with the Swalwell files. Release the Swalwell files. All right, let's get into this story here. Justice Department moves to toss seditious conspiracy convictions of the Oath Keepers and Proud Boys. This is a big move. We've talked a lot about the accountability. We've talked a lot about the people in the DOJ and all the bureaucratic institutions throughout our federal government that are still bloated with bureaucratic bloat, bureaucratic deep state swamp rats. And this is no exception. The DOJ is absolutely no exception. Is this, moving on to the accountability phase where you have to, kind of set everything on the right track? Maybe. But this is something we've been talking about. So I used to have a banana up on this flag. You guys might remember, like a year and a half ago before President Trump won. And, even after he won, I had this banana taped across the Union Jack on the flag. And I would say, is it called a Union Jack in the United States? Now I got to make sure I didn't say that. What is the blue part of the American flag called? I know it's a Union Jack is the Australian flag, or it's just called the Union, not the Union Jack. So what's the Union Jack? That's Australian? And Britain. Okay. So that's the Union Jack. So that's just the Union. All right. So let me rephrase that. I had a banana on the Union of my flag. It makes sense because all the 50 stars representing the states are unified. And I took it off after, but there were some that only got their sentence commuted. Stuart Rhodes, Kelly Meggs, Dominic Pizzola, a lot of those folks. And the DOJ is now moving to drop those. So that's a big deal right there. This is a story that popped up. I was about to read it. And then I saw the press conference and I got totally distracted by the press conference. I apologize. I told you guys, like, once I saw that press conference, I was like, oh shit. So I lost about 30 to 45 minutes of prep time. So let's go ahead and read the, I just deleted it. Let me pull it back up here and we'll read this together. I think this is a big story from CNN. And boom, there we go. Justice Department removes lead prosecutor from probe of Trump critic John Brennan. How about criminal intelligence, seditious mofo? Let's call him that. The Justice Department has removed the career Miami federal prosecutor leading the investigation into John Brennan after she resisted pressure to quickly bring charges against the former CIA director and prominent critic of President Donald Trump, according to people briefed on the matter. According to sources, Maria Medeiros Long on Friday notified attorneys representing people involved in the case that she was no longer handling the investigation. The People familiar said she has led the politically sensitive probe for months amid demands from Trump to prosecute Brennan and other critics. The investigation into Brennan is focused on one of the president's longest standing political grievances. All right, we're not going to get shit from this. Let's see who we can go. Trump's demands have taken on more urgency for the Justice Department and after Trump fired Pam Bondi, in part because of dissatisfaction at the slow pace of cases he wants brought. Todd Blanche has redoubled efforts to satisfy the president's demands. Miami U.S. Attorney Jason Redding Quinones' office did not immediately respond to requests for comment. Okay. All right. So nothing other than she's fired, and apparently it's because Trump is overzealous and trying to prosecute all the people who tried to overthrow his government during the first administration, overthrow his administration during the first term. Tell me more how I should be worried about that kind of stuff, because I'm not. Fire them all. If you think it's going too slow, get them the fuck out. All right, CBS News. At least 4 prosecutors involved in FACE Act cases during the Biden administration have been fired. The termination occurred at the same time that a report on the FACE Act in the Biden Justice Department was being finalized. That report being drafted by the department's weaponization working group, hashtag Ed Martin, let's go, established in the first days of Bondi's tenure. The firings marked the latest in a purge that started last year of Justice Department employees, many of whom worked on criminal civil cases opposed by the Trump administration or President Trump's allies, many of whom were weaponized by the DOJ to pursue their political adversaries and enemies with absolute bogus bullshit charges. That's how that should have read. Okay. The weaponization of the Justice Department and the acknowledgement of the Just Us Department. Justice Department spokesman said in a statement that the department, quote, has terminated the employment of personnel responsible for weaponizing the FACE Act who still remain at the department. Stacey Young, a former Civil Rights Division lawyer who founded and leads the Justice Connection nonprofit, said in a statement, quote, Congress passed the FACE Act with bipartisan support more than 30 years ago, and courts have consistently upheld the constitutionality of its provisions that ensure safe access to reproductive health services. Who remembers Bill Clinton's famous quote when it came to abortion? Who remembers Bill Clinton's famous quote when it came to abortion? I will give a hat tip to the first person that gets this. Who remembers the famous Bill Clinton quote about abortion? That baby is not mine. All right, dang ol' Aggie, you win. You win. Safe and rare, yes. First person, Sheba Arista, safe, legal, rare. We'll give you that. We'll give you that. Let him eat cake. Denise Ann, safe and rare. Yep. Makes sense to me. I did not have sexual relations. Yep. I heard one that was, I'm going to write it in the chat because I'm not going to say it publicly, but this was the joke that I always used to hear about when Clinton was going on. All right, there it is. I put it in the chat. All right. It's if you're a child watching, avert your eyes. Well, I didn't spell it that way, so you're good. You're good. Yeah, but so take that into context, right? 30 years ago, 1996, when they passed this, right? It was safe, legal, and rare, right? And since then, you know, the Sangarites have deployed this communist, Marxist, disgusting, demonic process of abortion across the country, right? We went from safe, legal, and rare to everywhere. Planned Parenthood, all of that shit. And so, you know, to say, well, the FACE Act has been around for 30 years. Yeah, well, abortion has also turned into an absolute abomination that's killing 600,000 babies a year, predominantly from the Democrats' base. The Black community is the most impacted community in the country per capita when it comes to abortion. And it's the other minorities as well. I mean, it's not the white population that's having the biggest issue with that. It's the Black population, the Spanish population. I would not imagine the Asian population. But it's adversely affecting these minorities that buy into these Democrat plans. And then they're like, well, why are we so, you know, oppressed and everything? Well, because they're killing you. They're taking away the nuclear family. That's also part of Planned Parenthood's agenda. They're destroying it. So again, going off on a long tangent there to show you why I think telling us that the FACE Act has been around for 30 years means fucking nothing. It means absolutely nothing. Just the news, bosom buddies, Biden DOJ deputized abortion rights group to surveil and target pro-life activists. All right, we don't need to go too crazy on this story. Plus, my highlights went away. Let me see if I do my old trick. Boom, they come back. I don't know why it does that. So basically, this is just showing that the Biden DOJ partnered up with the National Abortion Federation, the NAF, a nonprofit NGO. This is a continuation of the public-private partnership where the government acts upon or acts as uses NGOs as intermediaries to effectuate policy and promulgate things that they couldn't otherwise do because of the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, the Fifth Amendment, the Fourth, all the amendments, right? The censorship apparatus, all of that, spying on people, Fourth Amendment, right? Having NGOs that are out there literally doxing you and telling the federal government, like, hey, look into this person. Here's evidence that they did something. That's a Fourth Amendment violation. The government is using NGOs to go out there and do that. That's a violation of illegal search and seizure, the Fourth Amendment, right? Due process is all of it. It's disgusting. Yes, look up Margaret Sanger, Art Kitchens, 100%. Look up Margaret Sanger, one of the most despicable human beings in the history of our country. Check this out. This is from that report that came out about Biden's weaponization. The Biden DOJ prosecutors tried to screen out jurors based on religion. In the United States versus Zastro, assistant U.S. attorney looked for ways to screen possible jurors based on their conservative or religious views while not inquiring about liberal counter views. In other words, we want a jury not of our peers, but of individuals that we have selected specifically to be on this jury. They referred to Christian pro-life views as quote unquote culty and lambasted the defendant's belief in the courtroom. The assistant U.S. attorneys also complained that they, quote, ended up with a very Catholic magistrate on duty this week, and he was very particular about the bond conditions and not infringing on the defendant's First Amendment rights. And then it goes on to talk about United States versus Houck, Mark Houck, who was arrested by federal agents after the local authorities refused to prosecute him because he was on the street in front of an abortion clinic protesting. He wasn't blocking it. He wasn't doing anything. He was offering prayer. He was preaching the gospel and just talking to people about his faith. And a anti-abortion or a pro-abortion activist came up and started saying sexual things to his 12-year-old son. And Houck said, "Get away from my boy." And the guy didn't listen. And any father would do exactly what Houck did, and he pushed him back and knocked him to the ground. And again, local authorities, state authorities all looked into it and said, nope, we're not pressing charges. And then the federal government came in and used the FACE Act to take him out, to arrest him, to raid his home with the FBI with guns drawn, full body armor over a guy that was defending his son being sexually harassed by a 60-something-year-old old man creep on the sidewalk, on a public sidewalk where you absolutely have a First Amendment right. Well, Houck got $1 million for it. Pro-life dad, whose home was raided by the FBI, wins $1 million settlement from the DOJ. Not enough. Not enough. And it sucks because we're the ones that ended up getting footed with that bill, that end up footing that bill. But I think, maybe that's something. We always talk about tort reform and things like that. Let's get reform where they, meaning the people that are actually doing the illegal processes, are personally held accountable for this to some degree. You have to have a little bit of qualified immunity, a little bit. But if you're an investigator and you're looking at this and you're like, okay, wait. State said no. Local said no. Nobody wants to prosecute this. Let's look at the case. 12-year-old boy sexually harassed, telling him, did you know your dad's a faggot? Like that kind of stuff is what, if I recall correctly, that's what was being said to Houck's 12-year-old. Did you know your dad's a faggot? Like, that's crazy. Like if you came up to me, I don't have kids, but if you came up to I have little brothers and nieces and nephews that have been around me my whole life. And they're much younger. My brothers are 17 years younger, 16 and 15 and 20 years younger than me. So I'm 22 when they're 10 or 12. And so, or 10. Yeah. Something like that. I don't know. If you would have come up to them and said something like that, I'd knock you the fuck out. I'd be fighting. And, God bless Mark Houck for doing what he did and not going further. He just pushed him and got him away and left. Anyways, he's getting $1 million. I think he should get more. I can't wait to see what, well, we'll just leave it at that. I don't want to go too crazy on this. All right. Where do we go next, man? Good show. Good show. Got almost 800 people watching live. That's really good for this on Rumble. We've got an additional. What do we got on YouTube? I don't even have YouTube pulled up. What am I doing, guys? I'm doing an injustice to my YouTube people. What am I doing? Let me get you guys pulled up here so I can monitor. YouTube doesn't like me very much, but I do have 70 people watching over on YouTube, so that's good. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry to my YouTube fans out there. My fans. I hate saying fans. My YouTube friends. My YouTube friends out there. Thank you, guys. Independent Many. Oh, wow. Independent Many. Well, I know you're always on YouTube, but thank you for being there. And I think you're a moderator on YouTube, right? No, you don't. How do you not have a wrench? No, you are a moderator. You are. Okay. All right, let's get into this story. We had tax day this week, April 15th, right? It's tax day 3 days ago. And while you're paying your taxes, while you're giving Uncle Sam 28%, give him his 125%, whatever it is, California lawmakers are trying to stop any accountability to hold the government accountable for spending our money and giving it to illegals. California lawmakers introduced the Stop Nick Shirley Act. Let's jump down here and just go through the gist of it. California is trying to pass a bill that would criminalize investigative journalism with misdemeanors, $10,000 fines, imprisonment, and content takedown. Shirley posted on X under AB Assembly Bill 2624. Government-funded entities like the Somali Leering daycare centers would be protected from being exposed if they operated inside of California. Is the bill real and current? Yes, 2624 is an active, real piece of legislation titled, quote, the Privacy for Immigration Support Services Providers. I like to call it PISS for short. Privacy Immigration Support Services Providers. PISS. P-I-S-S. P-I-S-S-P. PISS on P. It was introduced on February 20th, 2026 by Assembly member Mia Bonta, and it was amended on April 9th, 2026. It's advanced through committee, meaning it's on its way, and remains in progress in the Assembly. So now it's made it out of committee, goes to the floor for a whole vote, and we're going to see what these commies out in California do. Are they going to pass this and take away all potential accountability? Because without Nick Shirley, we don't know much about this. Now, granted, I understand totally that Nick Shirley is working with a group of other people. We've had some of them on the shows. So I get that. But to censor Nick Shirley, James O'Keefe, J.J. Smith, all these people that are working out in California and other places, they're all over the place doing great work. They're trying to make that illegal. And how are they going to do it? Well, I'll show you right here. The key provisions include prohibiting anyone from knowingly posting, displaying, or disclosing or distributing on the internet or social media the personal information or images of these individuals. And here's the key. With the specific intent to incite violence, threaten harm, or enable a crime of violence against them, involving violence against them. And the reason that that's the key right there is because it's absolutely a First Amendment right for you to go out there and do journalism. And when you're in the public, there's no presumption of privacy in the public. If you're walking down a sidewalk and somebody films you, they can do whatever they want with that. Because again, you don't have a presumption of privacy in public. And so when you see this happening, and when they say they have to make it a way to survive the test of constitutionality, and they do this by saying, well, it could incite violence. It could. That's not on me. Me saying something and how you react to it is no indication of what I said. All right? Like I could say I've probably said things that have incited violence, that have at least incited an emotional response that could eventually lead to violence. That's on you. That's not on me, homie. I got my right to free speech. I can say whatever the fuck I want to say. And I oftentimes do. I just dropped an F-bomb right there. I've dropped many on this show. And I know there's people in my audience that don't like that. Sorry, guys. I do it. That's just me. If that offends you, I'm very sorry. That I'm not sorry. But yeah, that's how they do it. That's how they do it. They want to censor you by telling you that what you're saying is going to incite violence, and then they get you in court. And even if they lose, the damage has been done. The damage has been done, because Nick Shirley is going to end up. And granted, we found out we had what was her name? Amy. What was her name? She was involved. I can't remember her last name, and I want to give credit. We had her on Badlands Daily a few weeks ago when the California thing first dropped, and Amy Reichert. She was on the show. Here, I'll show you guys her profile right here. She was on Badlands Daily a few weeks ago, talking about the expose that they did in California. And if they went after her with that crime and arrested her and all that, the goal is not to put her behind bars. Not likely going to happen. It's to damage her, to weaken her, to destroy her credibility, to put that black flag or that black cloud over her head, to deplete her of resources financially. And while she's paying for legal fees, they don't have to pay for legal fees. That's all funded by the taxpayer. You guys are the ones funding all that, so they don't have to worry about all that stuff. And they just bleed you dry. So hopefully this doesn't pass. If you're out in California, you may want to keep a look on this. Keep an eye on this. House Bill 2624. I'll call it the PISS Act, or the removing accountability from government. And also, why the fuck do we pay taxes? Why do we pay taxes if you're trying to criminalize anybody exposing the criminalized misuse of our taxpayer funds? You're trying to make it so that there's no oversight. The media was always supposed to be the bastion of truth amongst our government. They were supposed to be the accountability mechanism of the people to hold our government accountable, and they're trying to limit that. Fatu. That's what I'll start saying. Fatu. Fuck all the way off. I won't say it again, but I'll say Fatu again. All right, let's move on. I got a goose fraba after that one. Let's play a video here. This is hilarious, but also this is a testament to how hilariously fake our government is. But also, this kid's smarter than probably 9 out of 10 people in establishment politics.
He isn't even old enough to vote, but our next guest is making history by launching a run for Vermont governor at just 14 years old.
Dean Roy says that he wants to see real change for his generation, and he joins us now to explain how he's going to make it happen. Good morning, Dean. Thank you for joining us. Talk to us about your platform that you're running on.
Yeah, so the platform that I'm running on mainly is focusing on housing, energy, healthcare, and education. For housing, it's mainly revolving around deregulating in regards to Act 250 and increasing taxes on short-term rentals, which are a very prominent problem in Vermont. For energy, it's nuclear power. If we were to reopen a nuclear power plant, we would secure energy independence. And for education and healthcare, it's auditing those systems, which are very inefficient in Vermont, and making sure that we get them to be efficient once again, and make sure that they're at the standard where Vermonters can both afford them and can lower their tax bill.
I mean, this kid's smarter than most people in our Congress. Get him a job. Get him a job. Not only does it show how illegitimate our government is that we're hiring a 14-year-old to do this work, but that 14-year-old's fucking smarter than most of the people running our country right now. Get him a job. Get him a job. 14 years old. 14 years old, and I guess he found a loophole in the Vermont Constitution that he can run for government. I love it. I love it. I want to see the Burn Bros backing him up in Vermont. Let's go. Let's go. I'm moving. B-Hops. I'm moving to Vermont to vote for this kid. Me too. Me too. I am all about it. I don't want to live there in the winter, though. Can I just do like a summer internship in Vermont? I don't want to be there in the winter. I heard it's pretty fucking cold, and I do not do well in the cold. All right, let's jump into this story here. Netanyahu corruption trial testimony delayed. due to security and political reasons. The prosecution agreed to Netanyahu's request, taking into account security and political reasons in the region and having no other choice. Judges instructed Netanyahu's defense to submit a separate request to cancel the PM's testimony next week. This is like 5 years that this has been going on. It's like they're never going to get accountability. Every time they want to hold him accountable and there's a hearing coming up or a part of the trial coming up, whatever it might be, something kicks off in the world and you get something like this. This is Lebanon right now. We don't need the volume. This is a town in Lebanon before and after the IDF decided that doesn't need to exist anymore. Look at that. That is fucking remarkable. You're telling me that that's all military installations right there? Come on. There's no way. They would have the best military in the world if that was all a military installation. President Trump acknowledged this, putting on Truth Social this week, trying to get a little breathing room between Israel and Lebanon. It's been a long time since the two leaders have spoken, like 34 years. It'll happen tomorrow. Nice. President DJT. He also went off on a truth like tirade yesterday. Did you guys see? Like I can't even go through these. Let me go back and oh man, where'd it go? Hold on. Let me get here we go. He went like on a truth barrage yesterday. President Xi is very happy that Strait of Hormuz is open and or rapidly opening. Our meeting in China will be a special one and potentially historic. I look forward to being with President Xi. Much will be accomplished. Where's the rest of the stuff that he went on like a truth like that's the shot he took at Turning Point, or not at Turning Point, but at Erica Kirk and JD Vance. Felt like he took a shot. Iran has agreed to never close the Strait of Hormuz again. It will no longer be used as a weapon against the world. President Donald J. Trump. Now, to be fair, that's not exactly what was said. Let me see if I can find the Aragchi quote. So the foreign minister, Aragchi of Iran, he basically said in light of the ceasefire, right? He said in light of the ceasefire that in Lebanon, the Lebanese ceasefire. So I'm assuming that's between Israel and Lebanon. They're going to reopen the strait. Now, Trump is obviously talking the truth we shared earlier. Trump is trying to negotiate that ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon, but there's a lot of animosity there between both the Lebanese and the Israelis, and it's not a favorable thing. We've talked before about the infiltration that the Israeli Mossad network has attempted with, and not just the Shin Bet as well, into Lebanon. And we also talked about the U.S. funding the counter to those Israeli spies. The U.S. backs the Lebanese secret special police, I think it's called. We fund them. We pay their entire salary. The Lebanese army and the Lebanese special police. We pay their entire salary, and their main goal, their main objective, is rooting out Israeli spies. So it's not as black and white over there as we tend to think it is. And again, this is not the popular topic with a lot of people, but Israel has been infiltrating Hamas, Hezbollah, and all these organizations and continuing to continue the wars against Israel in order to further the expansion of Israel to the greater Israel project. This is not a secret amongst the Israeli government and amongst the Likud party and Netanyahu and all that. This has been their goal. They're moving in that direction. And I think the reason that we have spies in Lebanon is to, kind of stall that out from happening and give the Lebanese a fighting chance against the Israeli spy networks. Just my take. Anyways, President Trump continues on. A great and brilliant day for the world. Thank you to Pakistan and its great prime minister and field marshal, two fantastic people. Again, the deal is not tied in any way to Lebanon, but we will make Lebanon great again. Where's the one where he calls it the Strait of Iran? This is a good one. The USA will get all of the nuclear dust created by our B-2 bombers. No money will exchange hands in any way, shape, or form. That's a shot at Obama. This deal is in no way subject to Lebanon either. but the USA will separately work with Lebanon and deal with the Hezbollah situation. It's funny how he spelled it, Hezbollah situation, in an appropriate manner. Israel will not be bombing Lebanon any longer. They are prohibited from doing so by the USA. Enough is enough. Anybody that says that Trump is Netanyahu's bitch or whatever, just read that again. Just read that again. I mean, all the Anons out there saving Israel for last. Got to come up at some point, right? The Strait of Hormuz is completely open and ready for business and full passage. He just went off. Now, this is my favorite one. Iran has just announced that the Strait of Iran is fully open and ready for full passage. The Strait of Iran. It is definitely not the Strait of Iran, but perhaps we should make it. Maybe we should make it the Strait of Iran. Oh, look how quickly I mentioned Trump and Israel and Netanyahu. And I get all the people in. Yes, Trump is very pissed at Israel. Yes. Very difficult thing. Trump is the Jews' bitch. Okay, you're retarded. You are fundamentally retarded and have not been paying attention in any way, shape, or form to anything that's going on. But keep up. Keep it up. All right. Oh, dude, I love this. Let's just play this video. This is so epic.
I will never give you up. The Strait of Hormuz must be shut. Blockade, blockade. In my head, just blockade. Please let the ships go through. Come on, at least a few. If you block me, then I block you. Blockade, blockade. I thought this was easy peasy. Blockade. Now MAGA and Melania leave me. Blockade. Surrender is beneath me.
All right, we got enough. The memes that we've gotten out of this Iran conflict has been phenomenal. They have just got the memes have been absolutely phenomenal. And Iran is showing that they can meme. Trump is memeing right back at them. We're all memeing. The meme wars are on. You know who can't meme? The left and Israel cannot meme. The left and Israel cannot meme. But it's great. It's great. Blockade, blockade. Little throwback there. All right. Let's see what we're running short on time. 2 hours and 30 minutes. That's a long time. So let's go ahead and hit a sponsor, and then I'm going to kind of go into like a power. I can't say a power hour. That's copyright written. It's copywritten. Let's go ahead and hit another sponsor, and then we'll get into kind of a rapid fire round here. All right, guys. I want to share a farming family story about a family supporting this channel. 8 years ago, their brother returned from Afghanistan with significant injuries and lost his ability to function. We can't share the exact story because of FDA restrictions. You guys know I made perfectly clear how I feel about the FDA a little bit ago. But friends kept suggesting CBD, so they tried dozens of CBD products. Nothing helped. Out of frustration, they began to create their own. They started making it to help friends and family have CBD that they knew was clean and powerful as possible. Then doctors started asking to carry it, and it took off. Now they speak at medical conventions and help others across the United States. While most companies have 1 to 10 compounds in CBD oil, their oil has up to 50. They have 8 things that make their products different. They make balms, gummies, pet products, etc. They're called Emerald Med, and you should check these guys out. If you get their CBD and don't notice a big difference, they'll actually provide you with a refund. If you want to support a business that supports our channel and free speech with marketing dollars, and if you need a source for CBD that's real, they're running a special right now because that is It's their company's anniversary. You can click on the link below to try Emerald Med for 40% off today. Get extreme muscle and joint relief, significant inflammation and circulation support, support quality sleep, or even daytime calm. They're worth a try at least once. Just click the link below and use the code for up to 40% off up to 2 items today. And I'll tell you guys, I have the Ace Manon, is the Aloe RX product from them, and it's fantastic. It is a kind of an alternative, so to speak, to stem cells. They heard me talking about it, and I bought it. I pay for my own stuff. I bought it, but they did send me a bunch of extra stuff, and they sent me this like handwritten letter in the thing, and I was so appreciative of it. And great company. I would definitely recommend checking them out. And I can absolutely relate to the story as well as the alternative medicine healing. Don't call it medicine, the alternative healing and using plants. So all right. I don't know. I see Elwood C. I see a question there, and I don't remember the question I posed to you regarding the actual purpose for the Marine Expeditionary Unit, QR Forces, POTUS demand on choose. I don't recall that. Okay. If you want to elaborate, I'll try and catch that. Oh, you know what? Maybe I'll end on this story. Let me see. I'm going to end on this story, but let me just make sure real quick that there's not, because I got to tell you guys the story. Got to talk about this one. Boom, there it is. House Intel members say it's time to expunge Trump's 2019 impeachment and punish Judge Boasberg, an influential Republican on the House Intel Committee. Says the bombshell evidence disclosed this week challenging the credibility and bias of a CIA analyst who prompted the Ukraine influence scandal 7 years ago is so powerful that it warrants Congress expunging the 2019 impeachment vote against President Donald Trump. I think it is time that we expunge this impeachment and get rid of it, said Claudia Tenney, representative from New York. Historically, we need to show that we're going to stand up for the rule of law, for truth and justice, and this was unfairly done to President Trump. Documents recently declassified by ODNI showed that the intelligence community's chief watchdog, Michael Atkinson, the inspector general at the time, flagged concerns about the CIA analyst who launched the 2019 impeachment. That's Eric Charmella. But those concerns were kept classified and never made public during the congressional proceedings. Concerns include a potential for bias, providing false information in his initial complaint, and animus towards conservatives inside of Trump's circle. Tenney also agreed with Eric Schmidt, senator, who urged the House to begin impeachment proceedings against U.S. District Judge James Boasberg, a former chief judge at the FISA court, by making several negative rulings, who raised the ire of Republicans by making several negative rulings against the Trump admin, several of which have been reversed. Okay, long way of saying that I think expunging Trump's first impeachment, meaning making it disappear essentially, could be the foundation by which they go after the deep state. Like, that's where the accountability starts. That's square one of the accountability. The investigations are done, but actually moving to hold them accountable. And Alpha and I talked about this, I think, on Thursday. Because in my opinion, if you arrest these people and bring them before the court, and they stand trial, they're going to say, well, Your Honor, all of that stuff led to his impeachment. So there is, credibility. There's a body, an authoritative source, the legislative body in the federal government, found that what we said was credible and whatever. And the judge is going to say, okay, case dismissed. You guys are good. But if you remove that and they can no longer say that, the judge fires back, or the defense counsel, or the prosecution fires back and says, Your Honor, that was expunged because all of this came out that it was all bullshit. And the judge says, very well. The impeachment, it actually weighs harder on them. So you can either give them the leniency of being able to use the impeachment as their defense against their actions, or you expunge the impeachment and then they can use that as showing how ridiculous the weaponization of the government was. And so I think this is a key step in beginning the accountability train. And I think from here, it's going to kind of snowball. I'm thinking maybe like, I don't know. I was looking at Solomon arguing with John Solomon arguing with Roger Stone on X, and Solomon says, let's check back June 21st, I think was the date that Solomon gave. So let's check back on June 21st and see how all this is starting to pan out, because I think the foundation is being laid. Let's see what else we're going to talk about briefly. ODNI sends criminal referrals. This is for Atkinson and Charmella, sending criminal referrals for the documents that they submitted to, try and hold, quote unquote, hold Trump accountable. They upheld out in California. They upheld John Eastman's disbarment at the California Supreme Court. Again, this is absolutely absurd. Later on in my show, later on this weekend at some point, it might be tonight because my wife has to do some other for her dance team. She has to do an event. So I'll be alone tonight. So maybe I'll do this. Maybe I'll play video games all night and do a private stream. Maybe I'll do the complaint filed against Charlene McGowan in Georgia and compare it with John Eastman. One or the other. I'll be live at some point tonight. So check that out. Oh, you know what? This ties into the Iran thing. We didn't get to bring this up, but this is Scott Bessent talking about Iran and our allies in the Middle East, the Arabs that Iran has been bombing, and now their willingness to work with us. Check this out.
I think that's not a correct characterization. Yesterday, we announced Operation Economic Fury, and we, for over a year, we have had maximum pressure on the Iranians, both on blocking payments into the Iranian state and going after the accounts of the IRGC. One of what may prove to be fatal mistakes that the Iranians made was bombing their GCC neighbors, and who are now willing to be much more transparent in terms of the funds, or do a deeper dive in investigating the funds that are held within their banking systems. So we have pushed out to them the request that we want to freeze more funds of the leadership of the IRGC and any members of Iranian leadership. The other thing that we have done is we have told countries that if you are buying Iranian oil, that if Iranian money is sitting in your banks, we are now willing to apply secondary sanctions, which is a very stern measure. And the Iranians should know that this is going to be the financial equivalent of what we saw in the kinetic activities.
I mean, this is breaking down the structures, the financial institutions and the laundering. And this is not just something that is going to impact Iranians. This is something that's going to impact cartels, intelligence apparatuses. If this comes to actually fruition, and that they are handing over these bank records and a lot of these, offshore accounts from the United States, this is potentially huge. Potentially. We'll probably talk more about that on Tuesday on Badlands Daily with Ghost as well, because this is kind of his thing. All right, before I get into the last story, because I'm going to tell you guys a story about something that happened this weekend. I think that's it. I think that's pretty much it. Oh no, we got to talk about this. Because this had everybody melting down. Everybody was melting down about this. Pete Hegseth, Secretary of War. Check this out.
They call it CSAR 2517. Which I think is meant to reflect Ezekiel 25:17.
Ezekiel 25:17.
The path of the downed aviator is beset on all sides.
The path of the righteous man is beset on all sides.
By the iniquities of the selfish and the tyranny of evil men.
By the iniquities of the selfish and the tyranny of evil men.
Blessed is he who in the name of camaraderie and duty shepherd the lost through the valley of darkness. For he is truly his brother's keeper and the finder of lost children.
Blessed is he who in the name of charity and goodwill shepherds the weak through the valley of darkness. For he is truly his brother's keeper and the finder of lost children.
And I will strike down upon thee with great vengeance and furious anger those who attempt to capture and destroy my brother.
And I will strike down upon thee with great vengeance and furious anger those who attempt to poison and destroy my brothers.
And you will know my call sign is Sandy 1 when I lay my vengeance upon thee.
And you will know my name is the Lord when I lay my vengeance upon thee.
All right. Everybody in the media freaked out about that. They're like, Pete Hegseth claims to be a Christian, a Catholic, and all this stuff, and doesn't even know that that's a made-up Bible verse. First off, Ezekiel 25:17 is not a made-up verse. Everything he said before that part is made up, right? The righteous man walks with evil on both sides, whatever. That's what Hegseth's point was. Like, he doesn't call it Ezekiel 25:17. Listen to what he says.
They call it Caesar 25:17.
Caesar 25:17. Let me just, going off the top of my head here, I don't think Caesar is a book in the Bible, Old Testament or New. I don't think it's a book in any Abrahamic religious text. So what does Caesar stand for? Combat, search, and rescue. It's air. It's air assets going in to get out other air assets, ultimately, essentially. And so people freaking out about this is not anything new. I mean, when we're on deployment, we have prayers that we say, and not all of them are scripture. Not all of them are gospel. Some of them are on the back of prayer cards. And I think Hegseth was making a joke here, and not a joke. Okay, let me rephrase that, because there is a lot of truth to what Hegseth says is the prayer. You know, that the downed aviator is surrounded on all sides by evil, by people that want to kill them. And so, God be with them. The vengeance of, he doesn't say of Sandy 1. He doesn't say the Lord. Hegseth doesn't. Samuel L. Jackson says the Lord. But Hegseth says the vengeance of Sandy 1, which was the call sign of the rescue operation. So, to get Dude 44. It's like a joke, man. Anyways, people were melting down about that, and I thought that was freaking crazy. That was crazy. So, all right, and I will execute great vengeance upon them with furious rebukes, and they shall know that I am the Lord, and when I shall lay my vengeance upon them. R. Kitchens, thank you for sharing that. I also just want to remind you guys that we're blasting me on Thursday, and I'm sure there's some of you guys that are here saying that I don't know, whatever, because me and Alpha were getting into it about Islam, about the Abrahamic religions, Islam, Christianity, and Judaism, and making comparisons. And Alpha goes off, they all want to kill us, right? Do you know how many times in the Old Testament they talk about killing people? Babylonians, whatever, your enemies, whatever. I mean, if you look at, put all your weight in the New Testament. I'll just say that. All right. So before we get into, I'm going to tell you guys a personal story. I'm going to give you guys a story, and I'm also going to tell you guys a personal story, but my story does not in any way compare to this story. So let me get this pulled up here. Maybe. All right, there we go. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, boom, our last sponsor of the show. Most of you guys know that I have believed in precious metals for a very long time, especially silver. I have been talking to silver. Guys, you can go back and watch. I have been talking to you about silver since it was at $20 an ounce. Telling you, get silver. Well, it's up over, it's at what, around 80 right now? So it's up a couple 100% since I've been telling you about it. You might want to listen. I don't know. But whether you lean silver, gold, or both, the issue right now is purchasing power. That's what people seem to miss. Everything costs more: groceries, utilities, insurance, and that same retirement money, well, it doesn't stretch as far as people think it does. A lot of retirement accounts are still tied completely to paper assets, stocks, bonds, dollars, and that's fine until the purchasing power keeps getting chipped away year after year. Then people realize they're more exposed than they thought, and that's why some people look at gold and silver inside retirement accounts, not to trade, not to speculate, just to diversify a portion and reduce risk. If you want to understand how gold and silver IRAs actually work, the rules, the structure, and what you can and can't do, there's a company called Augusta Precious Metals that focuses on education first. No hype, no pressure. This stays inside your IRA or 401k. No taxes, no penalties. You're not moving everything. You're just learning how this works. If you want to dig into it and click the link below. It's in the description down there. Or you can text CanCon to 35052 to get your free gold and silver guide. Get informed first and then decide what makes sense for you. Text CanCon to 35052. Help diversify and get on the precious metals train while at the same time supporting our channel, my channel, and helping out. So check it out. Text CanCon to 35052. All right, let's get into this last story here. Boom, there it is. Former student allegedly entered school with a gun, shot the principal who tried to subdue him. A high school principal was shot as he subdued a former student who walked into his school armed with a gun, protecting numerous students and staff members. And there's video of it that has come out since then. And that's the story right there. This guy is a fucking hero. But here you can see in the story, the video, you can see the guy walking in from the top left up here. Got a gun. This guy down here in the bottom right is like, nope. You see him rack it right there. He chambers around, and this guy's like, or this woman is like, yep, nope, I'm out of here. He leaves. There's somebody sitting here on the bench right here, and he points the gun at her, but it doesn't appear that he shoots at her. And then the principal comes in, and he's like, Leroy Jenkins comes running in and tackles him down, holding the gun, sitting on top of him. Look, another guy comes over, drops the gun. Okay. Absolutely heroic to charge at somebody with a gun when you know you don't have a gun and put your own self for that is incredible. Now, I'm also going to be dead honest with you. I think this guy realized right away that he made a mistake and did not want to do any further harm. Watch. When he tackles him right here, all right, you watch the guy coming in, and the guy in the hooded shirt, he points the gun at him right here. I don't know if he shoots him or not. It says that he does, but he's clearly bigger than the principal that's attacking him. Okay? And he's more fit, but he's not fighting at all. Like, watch the video. He's not fighting him. His legs aren't moving at all. He's just kind of sitting there. He's like, okay. He drops the gun on his own. Right there. He drops the gun on his own. So I think, and I'm not taking away from the principal. That was absolutely heroic. Absolutely heroic. But I think once he got tackled, the shooter was like, okay, this is not going to end the way I wanted it to end. And so he gave up. And thank God it ended with nobody dying. Nobody dying. So something similar, no guns were involved, happened when we were at GART. And we were at a hotel near Vanderbilt in Nashville. And across the street was the Parthenon, which is like a mock of the Greek. Is it in Athens? Where's the real Parthenon? Is it in Athens? I think. Anyways, there was we were like walking. It's a huge park, and we're walking through there. It was me, my wife, Ash, Caleb, her son, Cam, and Jackie, and we were walking, through the park, and having a good time. There may or may not have been some trees that were being consumed. May have been. So if you need a testament to how it affects you, listen up. So we're walking through the park. We go up to the Parthenon. We're taking some pictures, having a good time, right? Having a good time. We go back and there's this statue of like all these women from the suffrage era. And we're sitting there smoking a J, hanging out, talking. It's like 10 o'clock at night. Nobody is really in the park. There's a couple people running around. There's one guy with a lightsaber, like a toy lightsaber, like one of the real looking ones, and just like playing with it and all that. Denise Ann says it is in Athens. Thank you. And so did Bitch Fits. Thank you. The real Parthenon's in Athens. This is a mock one, obviously. So anyways, we're sitting there having a good time. And we're over by this swing and we look back and we hear this screaming. And the girls, I think Christy was standing on this swing and like swinging back and forth. And we're all just kind of standing around talking. The grass was nice. The weather was beautiful. And we hear screaming. And there's like this tunnel that leads under the Parthenon. Like it leads to like a museum that you can go under and go into the museum. And so we all just kind of hear this screaming and we're like, what the hell is that? And we look over and there was a group that was over there earlier in the night and we thought maybe it was them like playing tag or, fucking around or whatever. And so all of a sudden we see this couple come out from that tunnel and they're screaming at the top of their lungs. And there's this guy chasing them. And like, they're kind of like, they know they're not going to outrun them. So they're like huddling each other up, this couple. And there's this guy like running around him like a madman. And so we're all standing around and we're like, is this real? It's probably about 150 yards away from us. And we're like, is this real? Like right now, what's going on? And, it just like clicked on me and I took off running. I fucking bolted across the field and ran over to them. And as I'm running up there, I start waving my hands and yelling at the guy, hoping that he'll disengage with this couple. And then I get up there and immediately like get between the guy and the couple. And I realized that the couple is an older couple, probably in their 60s and like short. They're small, like 5 foot. I don't know, maybe like 5'7" at the most. Husband and wife, they're holding on to each other for dear life. Right. And, this guy, this guy, like, he's probably about my height, like 6 foot. I'm 6'3". He's probably about 6 foot, 6'1". He's got no shirt on. He's in pretty good shape, but he's clearly like fucking bonked out of his mind. He's tweaking bad on something. He's on drugs. And, the couple is like screaming, like, help us, help us, help us. And so I'm standing between them and I'm telling the guy, like, get the fuck out of here. Get out of here. Like, he's not trying to attack me or anything, but he was attacking them. But he's like, get him off me, man. Get him off me. The spiders, they're all over me. They're all over me, and freaking out. And like keeps running at me and he's like screaming at me. And like, and I'm just like, standing my ground and trying to, whatever. I noticed that there was another guy that as I was running up to this couple, he was running up from the other direction. And we get up to him. We get up to the couple. And my wife's out there making boxing stances. And as soon as I got between the couple, he realized that I was between them and he just left. And I was like, oh, fuck. I went from like a 2-on-1 to a 1-on-1 with this guy because the old couple's not going to do anything. I knew that. They were holding on to each other for dear life, literally just a husband and wife hugging each other, hoping that something happened. So me and this black guy, the PCP tweaker, whatever you want to call him, me and him are like dancing around the couple. And I don't know, this goes on. Adrenaline's pumping. It seemed to me like it was probably like 3 to 5 minutes of this back and forth, back and forth. I mean, at one point, like I started stepping back because he never really got like crazy on me. Like you could see that he was still somewhat human and realized that he can't like attack me. But at one point he got really crazy and started like lunging at me. And at that point I started stepping back and immediately my training, kicks in and I'm like, wait, I don't know what's fucking behind me. If I step back and I lose my balance and fall down, I'm shit out of luck, right? He's going to have the upper hand. And so at that point that's the only time I actually took an advance towards him. Like I was going to fight him and he backed down. Thank God. So then eventually, I don't know how long it took because my mind was completely blank, but everybody got over there. The couple that was there, like they didn't want to leave. They're like standing around like, oh, we're going to see a fight. Like it was like, what the fuck? Get out of here. I'm doing this so you can leave. And they just stood around. They're just like, nah, whatever, Riri. And then eventually, you know, all the girls and everybody else get over there, Cam and Caleb, and they get the couple away. The black guy kind of disengages, the tweaker. I'm just going to call him the tweaker. It sounds racist calling him the black guy, right? The tweaker disengages and kind of goes away for a little bit. And so we go back over and I'm talking to the couple, and the woman is bawling out. Like, she's freaking out. Like, we thought we were going to die. And like, he hit us in the tunnel and was beating on us and all this stuff. And we're like, wow, this is crazy. And so we eventually start walking with them. We're like, we'll walk you out of the park. And so we walk them out of the park. Well, the guy comes back and starts like going around us again. And again, this time I had Caleb and Cam with me. So I was like, you know, we kind of formed a wall and got the people out of there. But then this other guy just comes up out of nowhere and like he starts getting harassed. And then he starts walking with us. And I'm like, hey, bro, we're going this way if you want to walk with us. He's like, no, I'm good. And then he turns around and puts his arm around the guy and he starts walking away with him. So I don't know if he worked like in that park or whatever, but crazy ass situation, man. Absolutely wild situation. You know, it just it's like you just have this thing in you that like clicks. And you know, I don't know if it's the Marine in me or what, but you go running into danger, man. You go running into danger. That's what we do. All right, let's see. Where can I raid you guys to? We're gonna wrap up here. Oh, I don't think I have any Rumble rants. I do have one. Denise Ann said Stuart Rhodes and Enrique Tarrio are not happy about this being dismissed. They wanted Discovery to clear their names completely and to get the people that are corrupt who filed these charges. I had not seen their reaction. I know Stuart Rhodes called me a few times while I was in Nashville, but I could never answer. I couldn't take the call. So I'll give him a call and see if I can get him to come on to talk about that. Maybe get him on Badlands Daily or something to talk about that. But lucky nobody got shot. Yeah, I am. I thought about that too. I was like, if I had my gun, because I did a BDA, like battle damage after actions report in my head. And I was like, if I had my gun, would I have shot the guy in there, or would I have drawn my gun? And I decided, no, I wouldn't have, and I thought about it. I was like, cause when I'm doing it, I'm wearing basketball shorts and a hoodie, actually, I'm wearing this hoodie. And I'm like, I got no weapons on me. I don't even have my wallet like to put in my hand to consolidate my fist. So I grab my cell phone and I'm holding my phone. And I'm like, if I have to, this end of the cell phone is a blunt object that's going. And every time I do it, I try and make an emergency call, which would have been helpful as well. So I'm holding my cell phone thinking if I have to, I can use this as like a blunt object. But it never came down to that. The guy, there was only one point when I genuinely thought I was going to go fight him. And I was nervous because like when you got somebody that's tweaking out like that, if I go hands on him, first and foremost, you could get all sorts of diseases. They have all sorts, these are, not the best. They're elite, right? And so I was worried about that. But also, if you get in a fight with him, they have what we call, it's almost like retard strength, where they just don't know how strong they are and they have no stop. So like when we would fight the Afghans, the Taliban, the drug lords, whatever you want to call them, they would be on drugs, and you would shoot them in the pelvis, right? So when you're training in the Marine Corps, you shoot center mass, the T-box, which is the box around, basically the box around your eyes and your nose. You want to aim in this general area there, center mass, and the groin, because if you hit them in the groin, it stops them immediately, because you fracture the groin, they literally can't move unless they're doped up on drugs, and the Taliban would be doped up on drugs. You would shoot them in the T-box or in the pelvis, and they would not stop because they were drugged up. And so we know this when you're drugged up like that. So I'm really thinking to myself, like, this is going to be, who the situation, Daniel Penny. This was Daniel Penny scaled down, because I was in a big park. I had room to, maneuver around. Daniel Penny had no room on that subway. When that guy was tweaking and going after people on the subway, on the train, his only option was to take that man to the ground and subdue him. And in doing so, the man does not quit until he was passed out, which ultimately led to him dying. That's the same situation that I was in right there, except I had the freedom of movement. He did not. Penny did not. And so I can relate to that. I can relate to that. Got a lot of respect for, I've always had respect for Daniel Penny. Also a Marine, by the way. Also a Marine. It's like they put something in our food. Okay, so there was something I was about to do. I was going to check and see. I don't think there's, because I pulled up the rants late. So I don't think there are any more rants. So I'm going to find somebody to raid you over to. I'm going to leave this room open. I'm going to leave this room open for probably another hour for anybody that's enjoying the chat but is a little bit behind. And yeah, let's go ahead and raid you guys over to, I want to go to LFA. I'm not a big fan of theirs after watching certain somebody's take. I'm going to give you guys the option. Oh, I can do polls now. I'm going to do a poll. Let's do a poll. All right. Where should I raid you to? All right. You're going to love option number 1, Sports Illustrated swimwear show. All the guys will love that one. Or do you want to go to LFA TV and we'll add a third option? How about, what's the third option? How about War Watch 24/7? We're going to start this. We're going to start this poll right now. All you got to do is simply type 1 in the chat for Sports Illustrated swimwear show, 2 for LFA TV, and 3 for War Watch 24/7. I'm going to leave it up to you guys. Smash that thumbs up before you get out of here. A little over 730 people watching, 322 thumbs up. Let's get that up, please, if you can. And smash in the chat a 1 for Sports Illustrated, 2 for LFA TV, 3 for War Watch. Damn, B-Hops, I thought you were my boy this whole time. Thought you were my boy. You're going with 3? Man, I was giving you guys the swimwear. All right, I think you guys won. I'm going to the Sports Illustrated, so I'm going to that. I am going to that. All right, guys, thank you all so much for tuning in. I'm going to start to wrap up. I'm going to put the raid out there. And there we go. All right, guys, stay frosty. God bless each and every one of you. God bless America. Make the deep state motherfuckers pay for this.